Hello and welcome back. I've been doing these Tales from the Crypt recaps since October 2024, and you guys seem to enjoy them. But the first 5 parts were recap only, with no extra information. This revision aims to fix that. This will be a great video to chill out to, or maybe even put on to catch up. Anyway, this revisits the first 5 parts, so let's begin. What better way to kick off the list than with the episode that started it all, the very first one. This story follows Niles Talbot, a former executioner who loses his job when the death penalty is abolished. But instead of accepting the new law, Niles takes matters into his own hands, becoming a vigilante and executing criminals he believes have escaped justice. What makes this episode so terrifying isn't anything supernatural. It's Niles' cold, calculated justification for his actions. He truly believes he's doing the right thing, which is what makes his twisted sense of morality feel eerily real. The Man Who Was Death is a chilling reminder of how power can corrupt, and how easily someone in authority can cross the line between justice and murder. Niles doesn't see himself as a killer, he sees himself as necessary. That kind of twisted logic is all too realistic, which is why this episode remains one of the most unsettling in the series. As with many Tales from the Crypt episodes, it ends with an ironic twist, but I won't spoil it for you. Let's just say, justice has a funny way of catching up to you. Abuse of power is timeless, and this story still feels disturbingly relevant today. The Man Who Was Death was adapted from the Crypt of Terror number 17. An interesting fact is that actor William Sadler initially auditioned for the role of the detective who arrests Niles Talbot, and he then asked to audition for the role of Talbot. The casting director informed Sadler that they were considering Christopher Walken or John Malkovich for the role. Surprisingly, Sadler was still given the opportunity to audition, and he ultimately landed the part as Talbot. Sadler's audition was so impressive that director Walter Hill offered him the lead role as Talbot on the condition that he would perform the part exactly as he had in the audition. Originally, I consciously didn't conclude the first run of this episode in the hopes that you would actively search for the series to generate interest and potentially attract newer and younger fans to this fantastic show. However, as the show doesn't feature Skibidi Toilet and no one uses the term Sigma, I might have aimed at the wrong target. Nevertheless, the twist ending is that as Miles is going through a trial for his murders, the death penalty is once again implemented, and he becomes the first person to find himself in the very hot seat that he had condemned so many others to. The irony is undeniably electrifying.
It's my job. That's why I did it, because it's my job. If a man ain't good at his job, then what the hell is he good for? What's anything good for?
In grace, aeterna felicitas, divina prosperitas, serena laetitia, caritas, sanitas semper in terra. Magnifica Domine super nos nomens.
I didn't want no haircut. They said that was a mistake because my head might catch on fire from the electricity when they juice me. I told them, don't worry. The governor gonna call.
In our second spot, we have a chilling episode titled Mute Witness to Murder. The story begins with Susie, a young woman living in an apartment, who witnesses a horrific scene. A man brutally murdering a woman in the apartment across from hers. The shock of this trauma renders Susie mute. In a panic, her husband Larry calls for help, bringing in a doctor to examine her. But to their horror, the doctor who arrives is Dr. Trask, the very man Susie saw commit the murder. As Larry explains Susie's condition, Dr. Trask realizes that Susie has witnessed his crime. In the chaos that follows, Susie instinctively grabs a golf club to defend herself, but accidentally strikes Larry, compounding the terror of the situation. Seizing the opportunity, Dr. Trask drugs Susie and admits her to a mental hospital, where he holds a high-ranking position. He manipulates Susie's silence, recounting his disdain for his loud wife and confessing to his crime, all while using his authority to control her. Later, Larry visits Susie at the hospital and tries to communicate with her. Just as he begins to uncover the truth about Dr. Trask, the doctor murders him right in front of Susie, leaving her a mute witness to another horrific act. In a final twist, Dr. Trask reveals his plan to perform a lobotomy on Susie, hoping to silence her forever. But Susie, now pushed to the brink, discovers that she can speak again. The next morning, when Trask removes her straitjacket, she fights back. During the struggle, Trask suffers a heart attack, a result of the stress from their altercation. As he lies dying, he begs Susie for help, still thinking she can't speak.
You can't speak.
Oh, yes, I can.
In a powerful moment, she reveals her voice.
You deserve to die.
Murderer!
Like you.
Coldly retorting, like you. The episode ends with Susie repeatedly saying died into a video monitor, notifying the staff that Dr. Trask has succumbed to a heart attack. Her haunting repetition underscores the psychological toll the ordeal has taken on her.
Dead.
Showing that while she regained her voice, the trauma may have driven her to madness. Mute Witness to Murder was based on the comic Crypt of Terror number 18. Richard Thomas, famous for playing the wholesome character of John Boy Walton in The Waltons, gives a haunting performance as the villainous Dr. Trask. This choice of casting against type adds an element of curiosity to the episode. In a similar vein, Patricia Clarkson, who has since become a celebrated character actress, portrays the fragile yet tenacious Susie. The entire episode pays homage to Hitchcock, particularly in the setup where a character witnesses a crime through a window and becomes a target because of it, which bears a strong resemblance to Rear Window. And the gaslighting, the gradual psychological disintegration. If you replace the Crypt Keeper with Bernard Harmon's music, this could effortlessly pass for a lost Hitchcock short. Four-sided triangle. The story follows Mary Jo, a young runaway who is living in a remote farm and working under the oppressive control of George and Louisa Yates. George has been blackmailing her and treating her badly. One day, he assaults her and leaves her with a head wound. After escaping into the cornfields, she imagines a scarecrow coming to life. When the Yates find her, she becomes progressively more erratic, talking about her man and how she wants him to make love to her. George dismisses her behavior as craziness, but her condition continues to deteriorate. Louisa becomes suspicious of what's going on, and George grows increasingly obsessed with Mary. At night, Mary runs off to see the scarecrow, convinced it's her lover. Louisa begins to realize what's going on and confronts George.
You know what I'd do to you if I caught you cheating on me, don't you? Same thing you do to bulls when you want them to be steers.
When she goes searching for them one night, she finds the scarecrow with its clown face and stabs it with a rake. Only to discover George's body underneath. Mary grabs the keys to the farm's working car and runs off, singing about her newfound freedom. Four-sided triangle is adapted from the comic Shock Suspense Stories number 17. Unlike other episodes of Tales from the Crypt, it avoids fantastical elements and focuses on realistic horror. The story revolves around a runaway girl who finds herself trapped in an abusive situation on a farm with a malevolent couple. Patricia Arquette delivers a poignant portrayal as Mary Jo, who turns to a scarecrow for comfort and mistakenly believes it loves her. This leads to a disturbing four-sided love triangle, from which the episode derives its title. The episode culminates in typical EC fashion when the abusive husband disguises himself as the scarecrow, only to meet his demise at the hands of his own wife. This outcome is both disturbing and darkly poetic, serving as a stark reminder that humans can indeed be the most monstrous creatures of all.
The episode titled, "And All Through the House of Tales from the Crypt," begins on a quiet Christmas Eve in the seemingly peaceful town of Pleasantville. The classic holiday tune, "Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire," plays in the background as Joseph Kamen reads A Christmas Carol by the fireplace. The peaceful scene is interrupted when Joseph asks his wife, Elizabeth, to tend to the fire. With the poker already in hand, she coldly plunges it into his head, killing him instantly. The loud thud awakens their young daughter, Carrion, who believes Santa Claus has arrived. Elizabeth quickly ushers her daughter back to bed, masking her sinister actions with a sweet smile, telling her she already got what she wanted for Christmas. Elizabeth then calls her lover, eagerly informing him of the murder and her impending inheritance. As she prepares to dispose of Joseph's body, dragging it outside with grim efficiency, a news bulletin on the radio warns of an escaped maniac dressed as Santa Claus who has already killed 4 people.
Have issued an all-points bulletin this evening for a male Caucasian reported to have brutally murdered 4 women in the Pleasantville area. County authorities say that the man, a patient at the Pleasantville Institute for the Criminally Insane, escaped earlier this evening and should be considered extremely dangerous. Officials confirm that the suspect is a heavyset man in his late 40s and is reported to be wearing a Santa Claus suit stolen from the home of one of his victims.
Oblivious to the danger, Elizabeth throws Joseph's body near a well, but in a sudden twist, he grabs her throat before finally succumbing to his injuries. Just as she catches her breath, Elizabeth hears a sleigh bell ringing from the woods. The escaped Santa, wielding an axe, attacks her. She manages to defend herself, slashing his face with an icicle and kicking him before escaping inside the house. In a panic, she calls the police, but her anxiety grows as she realizes she left Joseph's body outside, a perfect scapegoat for the deranged Santa. As she devises a plan to frame the maniac for her husband's murder, Santa breaks into the house. But she knocks him out with the axe. When the police call to warn her about the killer, Elizabeth decides to stage the scene by embedding the axe in Joseph's face, and calls the authorities to report the maniac's presence. However, to her horror, she looks outside and sees Santa pull the axe out of Joseph's head, now fully alive. Elizabeth's plan unravels as she frantically tries to escape but accidentally locks herself in the closet. Meanwhile, Carrion, in her room, spots Santa climbing a ladder to the house. Excited to meet him, she opens the window and pulls him up. Elizabeth, having freed herself from the closet, runs upstairs, only to find her daughter missing.
No! Carrie!
Carrion's voice calls out from downstairs, and Elizabeth rushes to find her in the living room. But before she can breathe a sigh of relief, Carrion reveals the chilling truth. She let Santa in. The episode ends with Santa menacingly asking, "Naughty or nice?" as Elizabeth is left screaming in terror, trapped by the very killer she thought she could outsmart.
Or nice.
All Through the House is adapted from the story featured in Vault of Horror number 35. Interestingly, the story was first brought to screen in the 1972 Tales from the Crypt movie. I'm contemplating making a video about that film. If you're intrigued by the idea, feel free to leave a comment below. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis, the mastermind behind Back to the Future and Forrest Gump, and it features Mary Ellen Trainor, who was his wife at the time. This episode masterfully blends holiday celebrations with slasher-themed horror, drawing on the creepy notion that something innocent can unexpectedly turn deadly. This episode even makes a brief appearance in Lethal Weapon 2, playing on a TV in the background. Regrettably, it's the sole Christmas-themed episode in Tales from the Crypt.
Cutting cards, we delve into a tale of reckless gambling and obsession. The episode begins with Reno Crevice, a tough cowboy who returns home after spending a year in Las Vegas. His first stop is the local city casino, where he heads straight for the high-stakes poker table. At the bar, he grabs a drink, and the bartender gives him a warning about the chip leader, Sam Forney.
Nothing much changes. When were you here last?
About a year ago.
Well, the guy you got to watch out for here is Sam Forney. He's one big-time player, let me tell you.
He ain't nothing but a two-bit hustler. I beat him lots of times in Vegas.
Unfazed, Reno explains that he's acquainted with Sam, having encountered him several times before. When he reaches the poker table, he finds Sam casually playing solitaire, having beaten every other player in town. The tension between the two is palpable as they exchange biting taunts, recalling past bets.
I used to have a regular game back here with Gibbons and Norris and a bunch of the boys.
They don't come around here anymore. I cleaned them all out. I guess they weren't used to my kind of competition.
You trying to tell me something, Sam?
Yeah, I am, Reno. I'm just reminding you. I'm the best. I wouldn't want you to forget that.
Reno once won $10,000 from Sam, and in return, Sam won a Cadillac from Reno, which led to an awkward conversation with his wife. Their years-long rivalry has pushed them to the brink of insanity, as evidenced by their outrageous bets. Despite being broke, Reno is insistent on playing a game with Sam. Sam agrees, but on one condition. If Reno loses, he has to leave town forever.
Deal.
Only one problem. You're broke.
I got $100 in my pocket. I ain't asking you to stake me.
$100 don't mean nothing to me, but there is one thing that I want, and I want it real bad. I want you out of my life for good. I really don't like you, Reno. You show up and right away things just go to shit. 5 or 6 times you and I hooked up and somebody always gets burned in the end, so I'm willing to play. See who leaves, clears out of town, out of state for good, okay? We got a deal?
You're on.
They start the game with a simple roll of the dice, each rolling a pair of 6s. The tie only ignites their thirst for danger. Reno then suggests they play Russian roulette, but Sam hesitates at first. Sam retrieves a revolver from his car, and the two engage in a nerve-wracking showdown in a parking lot, passing the loaded gun back and forth, pulling the trigger each time.
Hey, you want me to leave the keys in it?
Park it yourself, asshole!
Who you calling an asshole?
You heard my friend. Get the hell out of here.
Hey, take it easy, no problem.
When they reach the final chamber, Reno discovers the bullet was a dud. Enraged, the two blame each other for cheating.
Buddies say that Reno Crevice didn't have the balls to do it. I want him to say that he went out strong. God. A dud?
What happened?
You put a ringer in. You're playing the whole thing. That's why you wanted to go first. You thought I'd crawl?
You set the chamber. You gave it a spin. How was I to know it'd come up last? That ammo, 2 or 3 years old. Maybe it got wet. Ah, you can't talk your way out of this fucking thing.
Sam proposes an even more sinister game, chop poker. They go to a secluded spot where the game is overseen by 2 bodyguards and a dealer. Reno wins the first hand with 3 queens over Sam's 2 pair and without hesitation chops off Sam's right pinky finger with a meat cleaver.
Careful, only one.
Laughing at Sam's newly impaired ability to shuffle, Reno wins the next hand and takes Sam's ring finger. Despite his agony, Sam manages to win a hand and cuts off Reno's left index finger in retaliation.
Pair of 10s.
Pair of jacks.
Yeah. I knew I should have gone for that fucking flush. I'll make a deal with you, Sam. I'll give you back one of your goddamn fingers. We'll get the doc here to sew it on.
No way. I'm on the roll now. you're gonna be changing your rodeo gloves for a pair of knit mittens, cowboy.
No, wait a second. Easy. Jeez, aim that goddamn thing straight.
Oh, don't worry. It don't hurt that bad.
Oh, God damn!
Time passes, and the episode cuts to the two gamblers in a hospital. Their rivalry remains fervent as ever. They continue to argue about who is the better checker player and who has better luck. Sam ominously threatens to pass the gun, indicating their bitter feud shall endure. Ending with a tense and darkly humorous note, their lifelong rivalry seems far from over, leaving the audience with a sinister yet intriguing conclusion.
Cutting Cards is adapted from Tales from the Crypt number 32. Interestingly, the scene of chop poker was recreated twice on the show. In Season 6's The Assassin, when the Crypt Keeper and Death engage in a game, featuring William Sadler reprising his role in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and in the movie Bordello of Blood, William Sadler appears as a mummy once again, this time facing off against the Crypt Keeper in another game of chop poker. Although Reno and Sam seem like bitter adversaries, there is an unusual sense of intimacy in their rivalry that perplexes people. Reno and Sam come across as two old friends whose competitiveness has spiraled into an obsession, almost as if they find it hard to live without the game or each other. Their relationship is less about pure hatred and more about a toxic friendship fueled by ego and adrenaline. Even in the face of Russian roulette, Sam refers to Reno as his friend, adding an ironic twist. The higher the stakes get, the closer they seem to be getting, despite the fact that they are literally cutting each other up.
Dig that cat, he's real gone, also commonly called 9 Lives. Our story opens on a busy night at the Big Top Carnival. The local barker leads a crowd of patrons into a show featuring the tragedy of death and the miracle of resurrection. Inside, the undying daredevil prepares to perform his greatest stunt yet, being buried alive for 12 straight hours, only to come back to life. He waves goodbye to the crowd, locks himself in a coffin, and lights a candle. Talking to himself, and in turn to us, he explains his supernatural ability. He confidently recalls how he got to this point.
I'll be dead. Just like all those bastards want me to be. But I won't stay that way. I remember the day it all began.
Many years before, Ulrich was living on the streets when he was approached by Dr. Emil Manfred, who offered him a way to make a lot of money by agreeing to a very unique procedure.
Richer than you ever thought possible. Richer than you ever dreamed of. This money, my life savings, will be yours. If you consent to a small experiment.
Ulrich went with the doctor to his lab, where Dr. Manfred explained how his research on CAT scans led him to believe felines have special glands in their brains that give them 9 lives. This isn't just an old wives' tale. Dr. Manfred demonstrated how he saw a cat resurrect itself over and over, until the 9th time, when it stayed dead for good. He convinced Ulrich to be the first human test subject for a gland transplant. With a sly grin, Ulrich guessed this would mean he'd have 9 lives too. Later, Ulrich woke up in a daze, clearly in pain. To test if the experiment worked, Dr. Manfred shot him in the head.
How do I know I've got 9 lives?
They sought to kill you.
Ulrich died, but moments later, he got up again, angrily yelling at the doctor that he could have killed him. Dr. Manfred explained he did kill him.
No! Welcome back to life, my friend. You bastard! You tried to kill me! I didn't try to kill you. I did kill you. Deadlier than Calcius nuts. And you still died 8 more times.
Alright. If that's true, when do I get my money?
But that Ulrich could now resurrect himself. His theory had proven true. As promised, Manfred handed over his life savings, giving Ulrich the option to either walk away or join him on a venture that could make them even more money, enough to buy an ocean of alcohol.
By longevity research and Enough, of course, to buy you an ocean of alcohol.
They took their act to the Big Top Carnival, where they pitched a show in which Ulrich would die in front of a live audience and rise from the grave. The Barker gave them a chance. In their first performance, Ulrich drowned in a tub of water, only to come back an hour later. As the water filled, a perky assistant named Coralie joked with Ulrich, even asking him out. After drowning, they drained the tub, and the crowd cheered when Ulrich returned to life. The act became a hit, and he began a relationship with Coralie. Ulrich performs his next stunt, a live hanging, before a sold-out crowd. He hangs himself but returns to life while still dangling, to roaring applause. Dr. Manfred is thrilled, putting most of their earnings toward his research. But Ulrich, he wants more than his usual 40% cut. One night, after leaving the carnival, they get into a terrible car accident. Manfred is instantly killed, but Ulrich walks away unharmed, just down one life. The acts continue, now with Ulrich taking in Manfred's share too. He performs 2 more stunts. One where a lucky raffle winner pulls a switch that electrocutes him, and another where spectators fire a crossbow at him for $1,000 each. Though he returns from the dead both times, he learns just how unpredictable his resurrections can be. After the electrocution, he doesn't revive for days and wakes up in the morgue, seconds away from being embalmed. From then on, he has Coralie handle his arrangements after each stunt.
What was that take?
As the carnival grows rich, Ulrich and Coralie plan a vacation. But greed gets the best of her, and she fatally stabs him, running off with all their money before he resurrects once more. Left broke and down to 2 lives, Ulrich decides to do one last show, demanding all the profits. The Barker is furious, but Ulrich argues that the carnival's success relies on him, hinting that he could pull a no-show if they don't agree. The Barker relents. For his final stunt, Ulrich prepares to be buried alive, just like in the opening scene. Laughing at his successes, he suddenly makes a horrific realization.
But what the hey? I'm already set for life. And all because of that poor little kitty. Poor dead little kitty. Too bad he had to die. Wait a minute.
The cat had to die to give him its gland, meaning he only ever had 8 lives. And this is his last. He panics, begging to be let out, but the gravediggers above just hear muffled groans and mistake them for a cat.
Somebody wait! I don't have 9 lives!
Ulrich dies in the coffin as a stray cat curls up on his grave. Fans love this iconic episode for its darkly funny yet chilling twist, showing how greed can twist a miraculous gift into a curse. The episode captivates with its grim irony, where Ulrich's obsession with profit leads him to a trap of his own making. Joe Pantoliano's unforgettable performance and the poetic justice of the ending make this episode a true standout.
The story of Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone is based on a tale from Haunt of Fear number 21. An intriguing detail that may go unnoticed by fans, but which one of my great fans pointed out, is that there appears to be a small discrepancy with Ulrich's 9 lives. Technically, Ulrich should have had 10 lives, not 9. His original life plus the 9 extra lives from the experiment means he should not have run out of lives so quickly. It's a small oversight, but worth mentioning. It's an interesting thought to consider whether having that extra life would have changed Ulrich's fate. However, regardless of that, the story still delivers the classic Tales from the Crypt twist, where his greed and obsession lead to his downfall. On the bright side, they had already purchased the coffin, and Robert Wall received a bigger payday for this than his work on Batman.
In our next tale, titled Werewolf Concerto, the story begins in a remote, upscale hotel, where a grisly attack on a guest has left everyone on edge. The hotel manager, Antoine, tries to calm the frightened guests, but rumors are already swirling. People are saying a werewolf is on the loose and could be hiding among them. Tension builds as new guests arrive, including a pianist named Lokai. His arrogant and eccentric personality sets him apart from the others. And then there's a mysterious woman named Janice, who keeps to herself, quietly observing everyone. Lokai wastes no time bragging about his supposed expertise in hunting werewolves, revealing that he's been hired to identify and kill the creature, who, he insists, is lurking somewhere in the hotel. Lokai begins his investigation with a direct, even aggressive approach, confronting the guests and inspecting every inch of the premises. Before long, his suspicions fall on Janice. Her calm, aloof demeanor makes her stand out amongst the frightened guests. But Janice doesn't try to explain herself. She observes Lokai's efforts with a wary, almost calculating eye. As Lokai's confidence grows, so does the tension between them. He soon announces that he's set a trap, certain that he'll finally expose the werewolf that night. As darkness falls, everyone waits with bated breath for the creature to make its appearance. Then, in a surprising twist, Janice reveals to Lokai that she's also a hunter, here to track down the werewolf herself. She turns the tables, accusing Lokai of being the creature they are all afraid of. Lokai responds by transforming, revealing his true form, a werewolf. In a dramatic showdown, Janice outmaneuvers him. However, in a final twist, Janice's true identity is revealed. She's a vampire. Her motives for killing Lokai had nothing to do with justice. Instead, she was protecting her own territory.
Werewolf Concerto is adapted from a story featured in Vault of Horror number 16. The episode reunites actors Timothy Dalton and Walter Gotell, who both starred in the James Bond film The Living Daylights. Several subtle references to James Bond can be found in this episode, and Timothy Dalton was still portraying James Bond during the time this episode was filmed. If you've ever played a game like Ultimate Werewolf, where players need to uncover hidden identities, you might notice similarities with Werewolf Concerto. In this episode, the characters face supernatural threats while trying to uncover each other's dark secrets, much like in the social deduction game. It's all about the deception, trust, and trying to decipher who's truly hiding or hunting.
This next one was so messed up, I'd nearly forgotten about it. A disturbing episode called Loved to Death. Edward, an aspiring screenwriter, moves into an apartment in Hollywood where he meets Miranda, an aspiring actress. From the moment he sees her, he's infatuated, but she barely notices him and shows even less interest. Miranda agrees to a date with him one day, only to keep Edward waiting for 5 hours before returning home with another man, completely forgetting about him. The landlord notices all of this through the building's cameras. One day, while visiting Miranda, Edward's fantasies get the best of him, and he crosses the line by groping her. Furious, she immediately throws him out of her apartment. Not long after, Edward goes to pay his rent and slips an envelope under the landlord's door, but it mysteriously swings open, almost inviting him in. Inside, he finds a wall full of photographs of women. The landlord, noticing Edward's frustration, reminds him of the 5-hour wait and asks if he truly loves Miranda. When Edward says yes, the landlord offers him a love potion, warning that its effects are permanent. The next day, Edward goes to make amends with Miranda, who only lets him in to tell him the only way he can earn her forgiveness is by moving out. Desperate, Edward slips the love potion into her drink. She drinks it, though it doesn't seem to take effect right away. She actually calls 911 to have him escorted out, until suddenly the potion kicks in. Miranda's feeling change in an instant, and she passionately pulls him into bed with her. By morning, Edward is utterly exhausted after a full night of intense lovemaking, but Miranda, undeterred, is eager for more. She professes her undying love for him and initiates their next encounter with an energy that seems tireless. They spend day after day together, but it quickly becomes overwhelming for Edward. Miranda showers him with constant affection, and he struggles to keep up with her relentless desire. In a panic, Edward tries to fend her off and escape while Miranda begs him to make love to her. Their struggle becomes loud enough to be overheard by amused neighbors. Miranda declares her love for him, insisting he express anger and hatred, urging him to hit her. In desperation, Edward punches her hard enough to send her sprawling onto the bed. He feels a fleeting sense of relief, but Miranda is unfazed, telling him he could never truly be mad at her.
You could never hurt me.
Feeling trapped, Edward rushes to the landlord, who coldly informs him that the potion's effects are permanent. The only way out, the landlord suggests, is to kill Miranda. Edward hesitates, but the harsh reality sinks in. He realizes the women in the landlord's photos are all victims of the same love potion. Reluctantly, Edward takes the fatal poison from the creepy landlord and returns to Miranda. He prepares 2 drinks, one containing the poison. As she reaches for her drink, she notices Edward's glass is dirty and switches them. The non-poisoned drink sits in a dirty glass, while the poisoned drink is now in a clean one, which she hands to Edward.
Oh. Shit.
Edward wakes up in the afterlife, dressed in white and surrounded by others who have passed on. Initially, he believes he is in a good place until he hears Miranda's voice calling for him. Suddenly she appears, walking toward him, and Edward's heart sinks at the sight. Miranda reveals her love for him and explains that she missed him so much after his death that she jumped out of a window.
Now we'll be together, my love!
Though Edward died unintentionally and Miranda took her life, they find themselves in the same afterlife. However, Miranda is disfigured from her accident, and this grotesque transformation seems to carry over into the afterlife. As she advances toward him, Edward realizes he is stuck with her for all eternity. He screams in horror at the realization of his predicament, and the absurdity of it all is utterly hilarious.
Maybe then he wouldn't have ended up in a state of holy deadlock.
The episode Love to Death is adapted from a story featured in Tales from the Crypt number 25. Interestingly, it shares the same plot as an episode of The Twilight Zone, titled The Chaser. There are also some thematic similarities with another Tales from the Crypt episode called Till Death. Both episodes share a common theme of an obsessive and dangerous love, with characters resorting to supernatural means to obtain affection. In Till Death, a character even uses a love potion to capture a woman's heart. I've made the joke that if men use a love potion, it's considered horror, but if women do it, it's called a romantic comedy. However, no matter how you look at it, using a love potion is creepy. Perhaps the straightforward approach of asking out the person you have a crush on would be a better option. But what do I know? I'm just a guy on YouTube creating videos.
Next up is an episode that many of you have praised, but it delves into some pretty dark places. But I gotta say, it's a true classic. From Season 2, Episode 5, titled Three's a Crowd, the story centers on Richard and Della, a couple in a failing marriage. Della has been getting a little too cozy with Richard's best friend, Alan, who was also his best man at their wedding. Richard's paranoia begins to escalate, exacerbated by his inability to give Della a child, and his struggle to provide her with the luxuries she desires, further driving a wedge between them. For their anniversary, Alan, now wealthy since their wedding days, generously offers Richard and Della the chance to stay at his spacious cabin while he resides in the guest house.
I'll go and get the bags.
Oh, look at this. Oh, this is wonderful, Alan.
I'm glad you like it. I like it too.
This is really something.
Put those two in the main bedroom, and I'll take mine to the cabin.
It's revealed that Alan and Della once dated before she chose Richard, which adds to Richard's insecurities about her loyalty. Tension rises as Richard and Della argue over Alan buying her gifts, highlighting Richard's frustrations after losing his job.
Supplies, food, booze, drugs. I'm gonna give you an anniversary you'll never forget. Mi casa es su casa.
In a moment of anger, Richard bluntly suggests that perhaps Della should have stayed with Alan, who could give her everything she wants, including a child. One night, while staying in the cabin, Richard awakens to find Della missing from their bed. He quietly steps into the hall and overhears Della and Alan talking on the deck. Their unsettling conversation includes phrases like, "Did you tell him yet?" and "Does he know?"
I kept thinking that things were fine just the way they were, but now I never knew I could feel so happy.
The old life ends, and the new one begins.
This only fuels Richard's anxiety. He sneaks back into bed as Della returns, pretending to be asleep. The following morning, Richard wakes up to find he's alone in the bed. Shortly after, he learns that Della and Alan have gone shopping together in town. Heartbroken and feeling betrayed, Richard decides to drown his sorrows in alcohol, and honestly, who can blame him? When Della and Alan return, Richard confronts them, but his accusations are dismissed as drunken ramblings. They brush off his concerns, leaving him to sober up while they retreat to the guest cabin. Instead of finding clarity, Richard drinks even more, spiraling further into confusion and despair. Later that night, Paul returns to the main cabin, urging Richard to join him because Della has a surprise for him. However, Richard, fueled by paranoia, anger, and alcohol, feels abandoned after they left him to drink all day without checking on him. As his mind snaps under the weight of suspicion, Richard's anger takes a dark turn. He threatens Paul with a crossbow.
What the fuck are you doing with that?
Oh, thinking about using it. On you.
Initially, Paul thinks it's a joke and continues to coax Richard to leave the cabin. But once he realizes Richard has truly lost his grip on reality, he calls him crazy.
That's not funny. The thing is loaded. I loaded it.
It's not funny, Richard.
You're crazy. You're out of your fucking mind.
And you're dead, friend.
Things are escalated. Sometime later, Della comes to check on them, completely unaware of the horrific events that have unfolded. Richard approaches her, wearing a fancy white coat that Alan had bought for her earlier. When he steps into the light, Della sees the stains across the front of the coat. Concerned, she asks where Paul is, and Richard simply gestures upward, making no effort to cover the bloodstains that now coat his hands.
Happy anniversary, baby.
In a panic, Della tries to hide from him in the master bedroom, but Richard bursts through the door. Despite his aggression, Della manages to escape through the window. She lands painfully on the ground below. Della survives the fall, but that is short-lived. Afterward, Richard decides to see what surprise Della and Paul had planned for him. He drags her lifeless body by the wire to the guest cabin, only to stumble into a surprise party meant to announce that Della was pregnant and that he was finally going to be a father. The gathered guests are horrified. This episode is very cherished, not only for its intense exploration of jealousy, paranoia, and the dark consequences of miscommunication, but also viewers are captivated by the psychological depth of the episode, which shifts away from typical horror tropes to present a more human and relatable story centered around Richard's insecurities and emotional turmoil. The shocking twist at the end, where he uncovers the truth behind his violent actions, resonates powerfully, leaving a lasting impression.
Three's a Crowd is based on a story from Shock Suspense Stories number 11. An amusing and notable fact about the cabin featured in this episode is that it was the same one used in The Great Outdoors, a film starring John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. The most frustrating thing is that if Richard had simply asked what the hell was going on, the whole mess could have been avoided. I mean, don't get me wrong, Alan and Della seem a bit too cozy with each other, but this just proves that a simple, "What the fuck is going on?" can indeed save lives.
Only skin deep. The story opens at a Halloween party where an abusive man named Carl shows up despite knowing he wasn't invited. His friend Bob, portrayed by Stephen Liska, asks him to leave, warning that he could get in trouble with his wife. Carl refuses, promising to leave after taking just one drink. Bob's wife is friends with Carl's ex-girlfriend and has assured her that Carl would not be attending the party. When Carl's ex-girlfriend spots him, she confronts him, igniting a fight. Carl, displaying his violent nature, claims that he should have given her what she deserved and killed her.
I've done that. I'd have killed you.
Bob tries to intervene but feels too intimidated by Carl to take any action. Angry and agitated, Carl storms into the kitchen and destroys a pumpkin. It's then that he notices a masked woman in a provocative black costume, played by Sherry Rose, sitting alone and quietly eating. The woman remarks on Carl's temper, to which he attempts to justify his actions by saying that certain wrongs deserve certain justifiable actions. Surprisingly, she agrees with him.
Certain wrongs deserve certain justifiable actions.
I don't disagree.
Curious about her costume, Carl asks what she is disguised as, and she reveals that she is a body bag, a synthetic shield with a corpse inside, as per the invitation's instructions to come as you are. The woman then unfastens her dress, exposing herself to Carl, but quickly zips it up again, stating that she needs to leave before she...
You look pretty lively to me.
Yeah, well, don't we all? I gotta hit the road before I lose what little mind I have left. The creeps will be coming back in here any minute, and I'm so weary of being hit on.
She expresses her disdain for how men hit on her, but let him accompany her home. When Carl asks for her name, she playfully responds by asking what he wants her name to be.
Always liked Molly.
Oh, what a coincidence.
As Carl and Molly arrive at a decrepit building, Molly immediately removes her dress and gloves, claiming they made her too hot. They agree to keep their masks on and not reveal any personal information. What follows is a passionate one-night stand where Molly teaches Carl to channel his anger through intimacy.
Take it out on my flesh, like you want to.
Later, Carl wakes up in Molly's bed to find a man standing in the doorway, screaming, but as he tries to get a better look, the man vanishes. Confused and alarmed, Carl hears power tools in the distance and calls for Molly, who is nowhere to be found. When Carl approaches a particular room, Molly suddenly emerges, now wearing a white nightgown and holding a power hand saw. She declares that she's making a stand. She walks with him to the bedroom, gives Carl a drink, and lies down next to him. Carl enthusiastically recounts the great time he had last night, but Molly, sounding disinterested, reminds him that it was only an hour ago.
Yeah, it was something, all right.
There's still a lot I want to talk about.
Such as?
What happens now?
Sleep.
Check this out. No mask.
What are you doing? We had a deal.
That was before.
Nothing's changed.
Having developed feelings for her, Carl tells Molly that she has cured him and expresses a desire to know everything about her. However, she refuses, insisting that he won't understand her. As Carl persists, claiming his anger and need to hurt are gone and that he won't hurt her, he notices that Molly has already fallen asleep. Frustrated, he roughly flips her onto her back to wake her up. Apologizing, Carl attempts to open up, sharing his last name, Schlodge, and revealing that he is an accountant CPA. He takes off his mask, but Molly simply rolls over and falls asleep again, telling him that she expects him to be gone forever before she wakes up. Angry and rejected, Carl curses at her and storms out of the room.
Goddamn bitch. Take it out on me. On my flesh. You just won the fucking lottery, baby.
Desperate for answers, Carl searches through Molly's medicine cabinet, her purse, and her mail, but finds nothing of significance. Her mail only addressed to resident or occupant. Dazed from the strange drink she had given him, he wanders into the room where she was working and discovers a wardrobe filled with masks from men she has presumably lured into her home. One of the masks resembles the man he saw in his earlier vision, sending chills down his spine. Horrified, Carl confronts Molly, leading to a heated fight. In the struggle, he accidentally cuts her hand with the power saw while she tries to defend herself. In the chaos, he tears off her mask, only to find that it is not a mask at all. It is her real face.
It was never a mask, Carl. It's the way I was born. Hair of the dog, and a little something extra. I swear, you must have the slowest metabolism in the whole goddamn world.
This episode is my favorite because of its unseen twist. The revelation that Molly wasn't wearing a mask reshapes the entire story, showing her true nature as a serial killer. The concept of her collecting faces adds a chilling layer to the narrative. There are many episodes that could be expanded into full movies, and I would love to see this episode given that treatment. Oh, and one more thing. Your parents, they lied to you. Monsters do exist. The problem is they look just like everybody else.
Only Skin Deep is based on a story from Tales from the Crypt number 38. I've mentioned several times that this episode is my favorite. It's the episode that introduced me to Tales from the Crypt. It seems strange to me that they attempted to make the mask look creepy, but saying I'd still hit it would likely get me in trouble with my wife. Anyway, on to the next one.
The Ventriloquist's Dummy. Mr. Ingalls is a ventriloquist who cracks crude jokes with his dummy, Morty. During one of his shows, a young Billy Goldman attends, gets an autograph, and is encouraged by Mr. Ingalls to return if he ever becomes interested in pursuing ventriloquism himself.
After a few tips, feel free to look me up, okay, kid?
Later that night, a fire breaks out in the theater. Mr. Ingalls loses his hand, and his girlfriend dies in the blaze. His career is ruined. Fast forward 15 years, and Billy is now an aspiring ventriloquist, albeit an amateur.
Hi, my name is Tim. Can Morty come out and play? Oh, shit.
He visits Mr. Ingalls, now a recluse, eager to reconnect.
Oh, yeah? Well, it was 15 years ago.
Though Mr. Ingalls is reluctant to revisit the past, Billy insists, inviting him to an amateur night performance. Mr. Ingalls says he'll think about it.
Billy! I'll think about it.
But when Billy leaves, he asks Morty what he thinks. On stage that night, Billy bombs in front of a rowdy crowd. To make matters worse, he spots Ingalls in the audience. After the disastrous performance, Mr. Ingalls doesn't hold back, criticizing Billy's lack of technique, material, and connection with the audience.
Okay, it was terrible. You had no technique, no concentration, and no material. And you had no idea how to work the audience. Billy, I suggest you look for another line of work.
Devastated, Billy leaves, only to find out that a woman, last seen with Mr. Ingalls at the bar, has been murdered. He races to find his former idol. Billy tracks Mr. Ingalls to his home, where the old man is injecting morphine into his stump. Furious, Billy calls him a junkie and a murderer, but Mr. Ingalls insists it's Morty who's responsible for the murders.
No, I set those fires, but I never killed any of those people. Then who killed her? Who killed her, Morty? Who?
Morty.
Billy, fearing Mr. Ingalls has lost his mind, tries to prove Morty isn't real. As he searches the doll, he finds a mask instead of a head. Suddenly, Mr. Ingalls attacks with a meat cleaver, knocking Billy to the ground. He removes his bandage to reveal that Morty is actually his mutated Siamese twin, fused to his hand.
Morty!
Together, they've been secretly running a successful act. But now, Morty's violent tendencies are getting harder to control. With his morphine dosage interrupted, Morty orders Mr. Ingalls to kill Billy.
What are you gonna do? Talk him to death? Slice him! Unzip his guts! Kill him! Kill him!
Finally, Mr. Ingalls grows tired of Morty's constant demands and sarcastic comments, especially after Morty takes full credit for their success. Billy pushes him to fight back, shouting,
He doesn't control you! You're the ventriloquist! He's the dummy!
In a moment of defiance, Mr. Ingalls cuts off his own arm. Though he thinks he's finally free, Morty reveals he's still alive and able to move around. He attacks. Before scurrying away, a now deranged Billy grabs a baseball bat, tearing through the house, and after one wild swing, even nails Mr. Ingalls' lifeless body in the head. He finally gains the upper hand when Morty gets stuck in a meat grinder. Billy cranks the handle.
What are you doing?
I'm making an asshole casserole, pal, and you're the main ingredient.
But he stops when Morty promises to do anything to save himself. Sometime later, Billy's career takes off as a ventriloquist, now with Morty acting as his doll. During one performance, Morty breaks from the script and starts catcalling a girl in the audience. Billy argues with him on stage and Morty reveals he's renegotiating their deal. Suddenly, Billy screams in pain. As the audience starts to leave, Billy pulls the doll off his hand, only to reveal that Morty has fused himself to Billy's own hand.
Looks like we're stuck with each other.
The Ventriloquist Dummy is based on a story from Tales from the Crypt number 28. This episode features two iconic comedians, Don Rickles and Bobcat Goldthwait. Rickles, renowned for his insult comedy, portrays the bitter and reclusive ventriloquist Mr. Ingalls, while Goldthwait, famous for his frantic energy and distinct voice, plays the eager but untalented Billy Goldman. Their chemistry adds a unique mix of comedy and horror. The makeup and prosthetic effects for Morty, especially when he's depicted as a sentient, severed twin, were created by the legendary Kevin Yeager, whose work includes both The Crypt Keeper and Chucky. He expertly crafted the iconic scene. I've been told I pronounce his name wrong almost every single time I say it. But hey, I do my best. I'm from Philly, and I pronounce words differently. In the words of Brad from Rick and Morty,
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data languager.
I have to admit that I always chuckle when Billy threatens to turn Morty into an asshole casserole.
What are you doing? I'm making an asshole casserole, pal, and you're the main ingredient.
Let the punishment fit the crime. Geraldine Ferret, a predatory lawyer, is arrested in Sticksville for an improper license plate. Her offense was minor, but she was still handcuffed and brought into the courthouse for her arraignment. After calling her boyfriend to inform him that she'll be running late, Geraldine was very obnoxious and handed her business card to an injured man in a wheelchair, offering her legal services in the future. A man in the waiting room panics when he is summoned and taken to courtroom B. An unnerved Geraldine talks with Purdy Lee Dreyfuss, a constantly sniffling man who was cited for turning odometers back on cars he sold, and learns that judges are tougher in courtroom B.
What was that all about?
Courtroom B. The judges are supposed to be real hard.
He dreads his punishment in this strict town as he is called to courtroom A, leaving Geraldine to study pictures of various public executions hung throughout the lobby. One particularly bizarre picture, where the year is blotted out, shows a modern-day car parked next to a public hanging. Pipsqueak public defender Austin Haggard is assigned to Geraldine's case. Despite having a background in Harvard Law, Geraldine rudely turns down his services and announces her intention to plead guilty. She is brought into courtroom A, but learns that the judge's sentence for a guilty plea will not be a simple fine.
Well, we hit him on a good day. He's agreed to decrease the sentence to misdemeanor public nuisance.
Decrease it. Okay, fine. What's it gonna cost me?
10.
All this bullshit for $10? Here, keep the change.
Not $10, Miss Ferret. 10 lashes. They can flail you now, and you can be on your way. Yeah, as soon as you regain consciousness, of course.
What the hell?
Finding this ridiculous, Geraldine switches her plea to not guilty and fights the case, arguing that her license plate is not illegal. Haggard enters the courtroom and gives the judge a file of evidence that proves Geraldine's spirited quality. While it's full of articles documenting a case where Geraldine fought and beat a wealthy pacemaker company, the judge believes she's immoral and that all she did was take down a medical company with no past problems.
In 10 years of use outside the laboratory, the Cardi-Talk 7 pacemaker never failed. Ever.
That's irrelevant. We all know mechanical devices break.
This revelation, along with her snotty license plate, leads the judge to declare her guilty and up her sentence to 100 lashings.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty, like hell.
The fine is 100 lashes, to be administered immediately.
Haggard's pleas to commute the sentence to public service are denied, and she's taken downstairs to a dungeon. Purdy Lee is also there and reveals that his nose was cut off as part of his punishment. Before Geraldine is punished, Haggard shows up and tells her that the judge has thrown her case out.
Good news, Miss Ferret. The judge looked up the state code. Your license plate has 6 digits after all, exactly like you said. Your case has been thrown out. I told you I'd get you off.
You little turd! I had this thing beat until you showed up with that file folder. You're a nag on his way to the glue factory. I'd rather be dead than you.
Before she can leave, Geraldine is once again arrested, this time for soliciting legal services from the injured man earlier. She argues that what she did wasn't illegal, but is brought into courtroom B anyhow. The same judge from courtroom A presides here as well, but Haggard claims it's a different, much more conservative judge. Haggard declares Geraldine not guilty, but presents a ludicrous argument involving a temporary insanity plea. The judge laughs at her and declares her guilty.
What a load of... Guilty as charged. You ready for sentencing?
She is ushered into courtroom C, a much more intimidating box-like room. The same judge once again takes the stand and quickly declares her guilty.
So your actions were cut and dried. You violated the law and you must pay. However, the sentence handed down by my colleague was wholly inappropriate. I sentence you to death by electrocution. Sentence to be carried out immediately.
After a private talk with Haggard, the judge realizes Geraldine's specific skills could be useful and commutes her sentence to public service for a time yet unspecified. She rushes out of the room but finds herself back in the dungeon. The ghosts return and nudge her closer to an electric chair. Suddenly, Haggard appears and takes her place in the chair. He reveals himself to be a former lawyer who got many criminals off by bribing jury members and has been working in Sticksville for a long time.
Yes, get out of my way! All right! Strap me down, boys! What are you doing? I'm getting out of Sticksville for good. Yeah, I thought I'd be stuck here forever till you came along. What? In my day, I got off more big-time dirtbags with a slap on the wrist than a low-life ambulance chaser like you could count. We didn't use any cheese ball victim defense either. We just bought the jury.
But I get to go home and do public service, right?
You are home counselor, and I'd rather be dead than you.
He informs her that the public service sentence means Geraldine will be replacing him, repeating her line, "I'd rather be dead than you." He is electrocuted and passes on to the afterlife. Geraldine, now dressed like Haggard, screams in agony.
Fender, report to courtroom A.
No! 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 No!
Let the punishment fit the crime is from the comic Vault of Horror number 33. Despite not explicitly stating it, there is a strong implication that the courthouse serves as a form of purgatory. The town Sticksville may be a reference to the river Styx in Greek mythology, which served as a border between Earth and the underworld. While Geraldine Ferret may be a crappy person, I don't believe she deserves to be Steve Urkel for all eternity. Okay, that's enough with the 90s references.
One of my favorites, starring the legendary Tim Curry in Death of Some Salesman. Sleazy con man Judd Campbell wakes up after sleeping with a waitress named Stella. The next morning he checks the obituary section for his next mark. Stella wakes up, and the two argue. Judd had conned her into believing he loved her and would rescue her from her crummy life. He admits it was a promise he made only the previous night, but the warranty expired this morning. He refers to his grifting as salesmanship as he leaves her. Judd, a traveling cemetery plot salesman, visits the home of Mrs. Jones. Her husband passed away a few days ago, but Judd claims he made a promise to put a down payment on a final resting place. Mrs. Jones wonders why her husband never mentioned it to her, but her attention is grabbed when Judd mentions the benefits package that comes with the plot. All funeral expenses paid and $10,000 in cash. She begs him to accept cash now, as if it were paid before her husband died, and he accepts. It turns out this is a typical con Judd pulls, tricking people into giving him down payments with the promise that he'll eventually return with papers for the benefits package. The next house Judd visits is the Comfrey residence, where Ma Brackett answers the door and says nobody by the name of Comfrey lives there.
Can I help you? You must be Mrs. Comfrey. You know, you're exactly the way your husband said you were. He's a very lucky man.
Mrs. who?
Mrs. Comfrey?
There's nobody here by that name.
Well, isn't this 2465 Maple Street?
No. This here's Maple Drive. Maple Street is way across town.
Realizing he mixed up the addresses, Judd prepares to leave, but Ma invites him in after realizing he's a salesman.
Young man, are you selling something?
He pitches his cemetery plot to Ma, who summons the grizzled Pa Brackett into the room to take part.
I do have a lovely brochure that I'd like to...
I'm sorry. I don't want Pa to miss this. Pa!
Pa takes glee in having a salesman over, claiming nobody goes door to door anymore and that most people would rather shop on the TV.
Mr. Campbell's a salesman, Pa.
A salesman, huh? Ain't that nice? In the old days, traveling salesmen used to come by all the time. Of course, nowadays, everybody stays home and does their shopping on the TV. I don't know, but to me, it just ain't the same.
No.
Well, set yourself.
Judd coaxes them into a special benefit package worth $40,000 for the price of $750 cash on the spot. The Bracketts fall for it, but Pa wants to see the land before buying.
$500 buys everything for the both of you.
$500, that's all?
Of course, we do have the extended death benefit of $20,000, and that'll only cost you $750.
$750 buys you $20,000?
No. You're both covered, so we're talking $40,000.
Well, we can't say no to that, can we? We'll do it.
Great. I'll draw up the paperwork.
Of course, we'll have to see it first.
See
what the cemetery plot looks like.
We like to see a thing work before we buy it.
Well, it looks pretty much like this.
Can't buy nothing till we see it first.
Judd agrees to take them to it the next morning. Pa goes to get the money as Ma fixes Judd a cup of coffee. After Pa calls Ma out of the kitchen, Judd goes to the microwave to warm his cup. He opens it to find a bloody head. He screams and falls backward, pulling back a curtain to reveal another corpse with a vacuum nozzle through its jaw. A terrified Judd tries to escape but finds the door locked. Pa appears behind him and beats him unconscious with a baseball bat.
You ain't going anywhere.
That night, Ma and Pa argue over what to do with the handcuffed Judd as he slowly starts to wake up. Pa wants to kill him quickly, but Ma wants Winona to have a look at him. Pa scoffs, claiming nobody will ever want her. They tell Judd that the corpses are just like him, salesmen who had already succeeded in selling them a crummy microwave and vacuum cleaner. Pa then shows Judd the color TV they bought from another salesman.
Well, they're salesmen like you.
Like that guy what sold us the crummy microwave. Didn't work. And the vacuum and the color TV. Wasn't no color TV till I fixed it. Now it's color TV.
Pa angrily rants about salesmen who suckering people out of their hard-earned money and almost shoots Judd in the face. Ma stops him by insisting Winona should see him first. Winona, the smelly, freakishly hideous Brackett daughter, comes down the stairs playing her harmonica.
You play that very well. Anyone ever tell you that? How old are you?
Old enough to know a bunch of bullshit when I hear it.
Well, let's you and me have a talk then, face to face.
Okay. Face to face.
Oh, you are so beautiful.
Judd tries to use his conman lines to convince her she's beautiful and that he's in love with her. While unconvinced at first, she eventually takes him up to her room. She pushes him onto the bed, then takes off her dirty panties to show him. He assures her he still loves her.
You still love me?
Winona, not completely convinced, decides to test his affections. After a bizarre, awkward attempt at intimacy, complete with Judd trying to convince her that the body never lies, she strips down, eager to see if Judd can perform. He manages to pull it off, barely, and Winona is so convinced by his flattery that she's ready to marry him on the spot.
You do love me, don't you?
Like you said, the body never lies.
She wants to marry and run away with Judd, whose interest is sparked once he learns she receives a $50,000 dowry, money stolen from the dead salesman, once married, and that its corresponding paperwork is buried in the basement. Pa and Ma agree to the marriage, with Pa presiding over it because Winona claims he's a preacher. The I do's are said, and Judd puts Ma's wedding ring on Winona. Pa, however, refuses to unlock the handcuffs due to his distrust of Salesman. A furious Winona attacks her parents for trying to ruin her happiness. She beats them both to the ground, then frees Judd from his handcuffs.
Holy princess!
What are you doing, Winona? Where are you? Kill him!
Let me get that for you, darling.
They go downstairs to get the dowry, where Judd immediately shoots Winona with Pa's gun.
Ugly bitch.
He digs through the basement dirt and finds a box, but instead of the expected dowry, he finds a death certificate with his name on it.
You find something down there, young man?
He's surprised when he looks up to see Ma and Pa, who hold him at gunpoint and call the hole he just dug a nice cemetery plot. Winona suddenly rises up, wondering how she'll get the fake blood out of her dress. Ma suggests they use the washing machine sold to them by another salesman. The astonished salesman realizes the family has conned him, but Pa has a different name for it.
Now that ain't a nice thing to say. Besides, it weren't no lie at all. No, sir. It's called salesmanship.
Death of Some Salesman is based on a story from the Haunt of Fear number 15. I have to say that as a child, Only Skin Deep was my favorite episode, but now as an adult, I have to say that this is indeed my favorite episode, mainly because Tim Curry steals the show. The prosthetic makeup for this episode required anywhere between 3 to 5 hours of application for each character. This process had to be repeated for each character multiple times, and they even used stand-ins to ensure a seamless transition between scenes. All of this was accomplished back in the early 90s. That kind of skill and dedication from actors like Tim Curry and Eddie Murphy demand respect. Speaking of Eddie Murphy, it is reported that he turned down the triple role of the Brackett family. However, this rumor has no real proof, but I will admit that seeing Eddie Murphy play the Brackett family could have been special in its own way. But still, the episode would have ended with a lesson on salesmanship.
It's called salesmanship.
Yellow. The story starts during World War I, and the battlefield is a nightmare. Explosions shake the ground, gunfire echoes in the distance, and casualties litter the scorched earth. Sergeant Ripper is frantically searching for Lieutenant Calthrop, asking everyone he can find. But most of the men are dead. Finally, he finds the lieutenant, who casually orders a retreat.
Drink, Sergeant.
Lieutenant, our orders are take that hill. The charge is stalled. What are you doing here, sir?
What's that, Sergeant Ripper? You'll have to speak up. The Germans are shooting the crap out of us. Or haven't you noticed?
We should climb the hill. You want us to stop?
No, I do not want the men to just stop.
The Huns have us zeroed in, they're cutting us to ribbons. I want you to order the men to retreat.
I can't do that. The general ordered us to take that hill.
Ripper questions the retreat, as they were supposed to hold the line, but Calthrop brushes him off. Orders are orders, the lieutenant says, and tells Ripper to launch the retreat flare. Reluctantly, Ripper complies, and the troops retreat.
Come on, Sergeant! Fire the flare!
Ripper reports to General Calthrop about the retreat, angering the general, especially when he hears that his son ordered it. The general, furious, orders a platoon to repair a broken phone line, with Lieutenant Calthrop in charge of the operation. Ripper and Captain Milligan argue over whether Lieutenant Calthrop, whom Ripper calls Yellow, should be trusted with the task.
Get Deep Harmony on the line.
The line's dead, General.
Yeah. Probably the Germans, sir. They've been sending out patrols. Probably cut the line.
Captain, have the lieutenant take the sergeant, a couple of wiremen, find the break and fix it.
General, with respect, I don't think it's a good idea to send your son on that mission.
And why is that? He's a section lieutenant, isn't he?
I realize that, sir. But, Sergeant, tell him.
Yes, sir. The lieutenant, as you know, is my superior officer, sorry.
Get to the point, Sergeant.
Begging the general's pardon, sir. I don't know how to put...
Just spit it out, man.
He's yellow, sir.
Later, Lieutenant Calthrop arrives at the general's command post. He's openly frustrated, admitting he never wanted to be in the army, much to his father's dismay. The general, wanting to save face and avoid further rumors of cowardice, strikes a deal. Fix the phone line, and he'll be transferred out of the army. That night, the platoon heads out to repair the line. Before they set off, Ripper gives Calthrop a whistle, instructing him to blow it if he spots the enemy. When they reach the location, the lieutenant freezes when he sees the enemy. He does nothing, paralyzed by fear. The enemies open fire, decimating the platoon and sending Ripper flying toward Calthrop.
To warn us. Why didn't you blow the whistle?
Calthrop, terrified, runs back to base and lies to the general, claiming he fought the enemy off. The dying Sergeant Ripper, however, staggers into the base, accusing the lieutenant of abandoning the platoon and calling him a coward.
You goddamn coward.
Ripper! No!
He saw the German patrol come around behind us. He could have warned us, but he didn't. He's yellow.
The general doesn't take kindly to this. When he demands to see the lieutenant's revolver, Calthrop claims it was used to kill the enemy, but the bullets are untouched. The general, enraged by the evidence, orders the lieutenant's arrest for abandoning his men and committing treason.
Arrest this man.
Please come with me, Lieutenant.
I'm your son.
Escort him to Provost.
Yes, sir. You can't do this.
Captain,
I'm your son.
notify my officers to report to the church.
What are you doing?
Court-martial of Lieutenant Calthrop will commence in 1 hour.
The next day, Lieutenant Calthrop is found guilty and sentenced to death by firing squad at dawn. As he awaits his fate, his father, the general, visits him and informs him he won't be executed.
You think I'd kill my own son? Listen to me. There's always a blank in one of the rifles in the firing squad. There's a question of doubt as to who fired the fatal shots, and I'm the one who loads the rifles.
The general, responsible for loading the rifles of the firing squad, offers to load each rifle with a blank, allowing Calthrop to fake his death and escape when the army retreats. The general only asks that his son face the firing squad with courage. In return, the lieutenant will be given a pack full of supplies and forged papers to escape Europe. Father and son reconcile, and the next morning, the lieutenant is calm, ready to face his fate. He spots the pack in a ravine, confident that his father has kept his word. He addresses the firing squad, apologizing for his past actions.
I know now what Shakespeare meant. Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once.
As the firing squad takes aim, the general hesitates, a moment of doubt flickering in his eyes. But the lieutenant, realizing the truth, is struck by live rounds from the firing squad. As he dies, the general and Captain Milligan watch his last breaths. The captain remarks, "He died like a man," and the general is satisfied that no one will ever think his son was yellow again.
My son is not yellow.
All right, Lieutenant, we gotta move this company out now on the double time. Make sure all our gentlemen, please do have a helmet.
The story of Yellow is based on a story featured in Shock Suspense Stories #1. Here's a fun fact. Eric Douglas, who portrayed Lieutenant Martin Calthrop, is the real-life son of Kirk Douglas, who played General Calthrop. Sadly, both of them have since passed away. In 2004, Eric Douglas passed away from acute intoxication, while Kirk Douglas passed away in 1996 from a stroke. The story of Yellow stands as the longest episode of Tales from the Crypt, with a running time nearly double that of any other episode in the series. This episode features both Dan Aykroyd and Lance Henriksen. While Aykroyd only appears in one episode of the series, Henriksen appears in both Yellow and Cutting Cards. Yellow was actually originally produced as part of a TV anthology pilot called Two-Fisted Tales. It was created by the same producers of Tales from the Crypt. This series aimed for a suspense thriller approach with a ghostly gunfighter portrayed by actor and avid fan of the series William Sadler. The pilot was ultimately not picked up as a series and was used as an episode of Tales from the Crypt instead. Am I the only one who starts thinking about Resident Evil 4 whenever I hear the name Sadler? Anyone else? No? Okay, let's move on.
Fitting punishment. A young teenager named Bobby Thornberry is dropped off at a funeral home. He walks in as a memorial service is happening and awkwardly drops his suitcase, briefly halting the ceremony. He spots his uncle, Ezra Thornberry, the funeral director, comforting guests and kindly ushering them out of the room. But as soon as Ezra closes the curtains, his demeanor shifts. He becomes nasty, barking orders at his assistant, Clyde.
We'll pull the hearse around back. I'll prepare the casket.
When Ezra tries to shoo Bobby away, Bobby announces that he's been sent to live with him, since his parents, Ezra's sister and brother-in-law, died in a car accident. While Ezra is reluctant to take on the responsibility, he warms up to the idea when he realizes Bobby can help him around the funeral home for free. Bobby is given the attic for a room and a hard stretcher for a bed.
You can sleep here.
Here?
That's right, boy.
Thanks, Uncle Ezra.
Put some bedding on you. You'll be fine. You know the righteous need the divine light to see the truth. Besides, electricity costs money. You leave the lights alone, boy.
Ezra begins teaching Bobby the ins and outs of the funeral business, starting with how to take care of the corpses. Though initially grossed out by the process of draining blood, Bobby soon learns that Ezra cuts costs by filling the bodies with tap water instead of embalming fluid.
Get in there.
Aren't you supposed to use chemicals or something?
He's dead, you damn fool. He doesn't know the difference. Besides, those chemicals cost money, like it says in the Bible. Penny saved, penny earned.
Didn't Ben Franklin say that?
Don't you contradict me, boy!
He also begins to notice his uncle's other extreme penny-pinching habits, such as hoarding gold teeth from the deceased and upselling pine caskets to customers. Ezra constantly quotes the Bible to justify his cheapness and belittles his nephew at every opportunity. One day, Ezra mistakenly orders a pine casket for a client who specifically requested oak for their deceased son.
These last 2 days have been rather trying.
Yes, I can imagine. You and your family have my condolences, Mr. Jeffries. But don't worry. I've taken care of everything. Here we are. The perfect vessel to send your son on his way to the realm of glory. Is there something wrong?
This casket is made of pine.
That's right. Highest quality of pine from the forest of Maine.
But I specifically asked for oak.
Oak?
That's right.
But I've already paid.
I want nothing but the best for my son, Mr. Thornberry.
Furious at the extra expense, Ezra blames Bobby for the mistake and beats him with a crowbar.
Now you're gonna have to be punished
severely. Now, Uncle, please put.
Get up! Oh, help me! Get up, I said! We got work to do!
My leg!
The hell with your legs! Get up here! It's no good flying! Dog!
The poor boy is left with a severe spinal injury and must spend the rest of his life on crutches. Ezra lies to the doctor, telling him that Bobby fell down the stairs.
If I've told him once, I've told him 1,000 times. No running inside. He's a spirited boy, you know, an athlete.
Not anymore.
Later, Ezra sells Bobby's Air Jordan shoes to help pay for his mounting medical bills. Bobby, fed up with his cruel uncle, threatens to tell the sheriff the truth about how he really got injured.
Ezra!
Don't you Ezra me.
Where are my Air Jordans?
I sold them.
You sold them?
Got a pretty good price for them, too.
How could you sell my shoes?
Don't you raise your voice at me, boy. Look at you. You're nothing but a helpless cripple. What are you gonna do with shoes? All you're gonna do is cost me money. You're nothing but a goddamn burden.
Well, you should have thought about that before you hit me with that crowbar. I ought to call the sheriff. That's what I'm gonna do.
The sheriff's, huh? And where are you gonna go next? The state hospital, that's where.
Realizing that the extra pine casket might come in handy, Ezra lures Bobby to the top of the basement stairs and throws his basketball at him. This causes Bobby to lose his balance and fall, breaking his neck.
Hello, Bobby.
Hi, Uncle. Oh, what are you doing with my ball?
Without a hint of remorse, Ezra drains Bobby's blood and embalms him with tap water. However, when he tries to place Bobby in the pine casket, he finds that Bobby's body is too tall. Ezra, being ever so heartless, finds a way to make him fit. At the wake, suspicion begins to mount.
Strange how he should happen to fall down the stairs again, isn't it, Mr. Thorntonberry?
Well, perhaps it's for the best. The boy was young and full of vigor. He would have made a miserable cripple.
Such a short coffin for a boy so tall.
Clyde, knowing that Ezra was responsible for Bobby's death but lacking proof, quits and leaves Ezra to manage the funeral home alone.
I know that nice young man didn't die in no accident. I know it. I can't prove it.
Late one night, Ezra is disturbed by a knock on the door. When he answers, no one is there. Tormented by a faucet that won't stop running and lights that keep turning on by themselves, Ezra begins to suspect that Clyde is trying to scare him.
You turning my lights on, Clyde, wherever you are. Think you can come crawling to beg for your job back? Well, then you can go to hell.
Suddenly, Bobby's basketball slowly bounces down the stairs and stops at Ezra's feet. When Ezra picks it up, an Air Jordan wearing foot kicks him down the stairs. In an ironic twist, Ezra suffers a spinal injury from the fall and is left unable to feel his legs. A legless, reanimated Bobby, now aided by crutches, slowly descends the stairs. As he approaches Ezra, Bobby recites the Bible quote, "Blood is thicker than water," before getting revenge on his cowering uncle.
Like it says in the Bible, Uncle Ezra, blood is thicker than water. Not him! This can't be happening. Somebody help me!
Fitting Punishment is based on a story featured in The Vault of Horror number 16, co-written by Don Mancini, who is best known for creating the Chucky and Child's Play franchise. It's worth mentioning that this is the only episode in the entire series to feature an entirely African-American cast. Director Jack Shoulder insisted on this creative choice, which set the story in an inner-city funeral home, giving it a distinctive cultural tone while preserving the integrity of the plot. In a shockingly accurate portrayal, the plot mirrors a chilling real-life case involving James Hines, a 6'7" blind albino reverend whose legs were sawed off below the knees by a funeral home to fit him into an undersized coffin. Ironically, Ezra's fate mirrors the abuse he inflicted. He is paralyzed after a fall and beaten with a crowbar by legless Bobby, making it one of the show's most poetically brutal endings.
Korman's Calamity. The story is about Jim Korman, a talented comic book artist. Unfortunately, Jim has a problem. His wife, Mildred. She's overbearing, extremely jealous, and downright unpleasant. Mildred is so nasty that Jim's co-workers literally hide from her when she visits the office. She constantly accuses Jim of flirting with his female colleagues and has nothing but contempt for his career. On top of all that, she's angry he hasn't gotten her pregnant yet.
Hi, honey.
Don't hi, honey me, you pompous jackass. This is Saturday. When do you plan on coming home?
I've got to finish this edition.
Bullsnot. You can't fool me, Mr. Weekend Workaholic. You got a blonde bimbo stashed away someplace, and when I find her, I'm gonna rip her cute little powdered face off.
Determined to fix that, Mildred forces Jim to take some experimental fertility pills. But these pills don't just boost fertility. They come with some very strange side effects. Jim suddenly finds himself filled with creative energy. His struggling comic project quickly transforms into something extraordinary as he sketches an impressive monster. Later that evening, Jim has a brief but flirty encounter with a young woman named Lorelei Phelps at the laundromat. After Jim leaves, the lights go out, and Lorelei is attacked by a man in the dark. Luckily, Lorelei knows how to handle herself and fights back.
Ow. That Bruce Lee shit is gonna cost you, babe.
Just as things start to look grim, a reptilian monster similar to Jim's drawing emerges from a washing machine and attacks Lorelei's assailant, biting his head clean off. Lorelei escapes and reports what happened to her fellow police officers. But of course, no one believes her.
A monster emerged from the washing machine and gobbled up the assailant.
That's right, sir.
And you left the premises after it spat the head out.
Well, actually...
Hey, you better have that uniform cleaned and pressed by tomorrow morning. The captain will want to have a word with you.
The next day, Lorelei sees the exact same monster in the latest issue of the Tales from the Crypt comic book. When she digs deeper, she realizes other monsters that Jim has drawn for the comic match police reports of strange sightings. Convinced there is a connection, she decides to track Jim down. That night, as Jim gets into his car after work, Lorelei surprises him in the back seat. She shares her theory about his drawings creating real monsters.
You see in the paper, Jim? I was there. I saw that thing with my own eyes.
What's your point?
There's been a rash of monster sightings in the past month. All different, all horrible. These are police sketches, made from eyewitness descriptions. These are recent Tales from the Crypt comic books, drawn by you. See any similarity?
At first, Jim is skeptical, but he agrees to test it out. Back at the office, he sketches a new monster. While they work together, the two flirt, and Jim even talks about leaving monster comics behind to try romance stories instead. Sure enough, the new creature he draws comes to life, terrifying a group of kids in an alley. It's clear Jim feels a connection with Lorelei. He starts sketching romantic pictures of them together, including a dinner date. He later calls her to arrange a real dinner, but Mildred overhears their conversation.
Yeah. See you in 5.
Nice secluded spot, huh?
How long have you been?
Long enough, you little creep. You're gonna meet some playgirl tramp, aren't you?
Of course not, honey. You're the only woman in the world for me.
Yeah? And pigs have wings. Look, you wait here, mister. I've got a surprise for you in the car.
Frustrated and angry, Jim vents by sketching a grotesque caricature of Mildred. Just like his other drawings, this one also comes to life. When Mildred bursts back into the room with a gun, her monstrous double steps in. The creature doesn't take kindly to being insulted and turns on her.
Well, that's flattering. Is that how you picture me, Jim, as a rancid heap of garbage? God, what an eyesore. Why don't you feed it a laxative and put it out of its misery?
While the two fight, Jim makes a decision. He throws the fertility pills into the trash, ready to leave this chaos behind. Later, Jim meets Lorelei for their dinner. When she asks if he's married, Jim calmly replies, "Not anymore." Back at the office, the blood spatter on the drawing leaves no doubt about Mildred's fate. The story of Korman's Calamity is a fantastic blend of dark humor and horror. Mildred having to confront her ghoulish depiction has a hint of poetic justice that fans like ourselves love.
Korman's Calamity is based on Tales from the Crypt number 31, but the TV adaptation significantly deviates from the original comic. While the comic originally focused on EC Comics artist Jack Kamen and co-workers, the TV adaptation reimagines the protagonist as Jim Korman, Harry Anderson, and incorporates a new plot involving fertility pills and monstrous manifestations. Unlike many Tales from the Crypt episodes, which blend dark humor with genuine horror, Korman's Calamity leans heavily into comedy. The over-the-top performances, wacky monster designs, and playful music by composer David Kittay create a distinctly lighter atmosphere, closer to Scooby-Doo than most episodes of the series. The moral of this story: don't be a dick to your spouse, or they'll sleep with a pretty lady cop.
Next up is the deliciously twisted episode titled What's Cookin'? This one serves up a gruesome tale of desperation, betrayal, and some unusual culinary choices. Fred, played by the legendary Christopher Reeve, and his wife Irma co-own the struggling Fred and Irma's Calamari Cafe. Fred has a dream to make it the Baskin-Robbins of squid, even though everyone around him thinks it's a terrible idea. Their janitor, Gaston, played by another legend, Judd Nelson. Gaston suggests switching things up and serving his family's recipe, but Fred stubbornly rejects the idea. Later that night, Irma runs into Gaston near the restaurant. The lonely drifter offers to walk her home, but Irma confidently assures him she doesn't need protection. revealing the gun she carries in her purse.
Would you like me to walk you home?
No, I'm okay. I can take care of myself. Besides, Fred's gonna be home soon. Bye.
Meanwhile, Fred's landlord, Mr. Chumley, played by Meatloaf, shows up at the restaurant. He's furious over 3 months of unpaid rent, and when Fred can't pay, Chumley insults his cooking. Enraged, Fred attacks him with a knife.
You're one lousy cook. You fat son of a bitch! You can't do that to me!
Only managing to give Chumley a small cut. Horrified at what he's done, Fred listens as Chumley promises to return with the police the next day. That night, Fred goes home feeling defeated and tries convincing Irma to consider serving pork. But Irma, frustrated yet caring, insists they can't afford another remodel. The next morning, the couple prepares for another bad day at the restaurant, but Officer Phil Farley, played by Art LaFleur, arrives, hungry enough to eat squid. That changes when Irma finds steak and eggs mysteriously stocked in the fridge. Gaston explains he took the initiative to get the meat from a new supplier.
I didn't want to say anything because I was afraid that you guys would tell me not to. But you know that barbecue idea that I was talking about? Well, I took the initiative and spoke with this supplier that I know, and he gave me a really good deal. I hope you're not angry with me.
I ain't angry, I'm starved. Come on, let's throw one of those babies on the grill.
As Irma cooks, the enticing aroma begins drawing in a crowd. Fred is thrilled by the customers, but grows uneasy when he notices Gaston with Mr. Chumley's handkerchief.
Gaston, can I have a word with you, please?
God, you know, I can't believe what you told us about Mr. Chumley.
The city's turning into a goddamn sewer.
Fred's anxiety spikes after Officer Farley mentions that Chumley never made it home last night. Pulling Gaston into the kitchen, Fred confronts him, but Gaston smoothly brushes off the accusations, reminding Fred he's just trying to help save the restaurant. Fred momentarily calms down, until he finds Chumley's mutilated corpse in the freezer. That's when Gaston finally admits to killing Chumley and even cuts off a chunk of meat to cook. He brushes it off, calling it a dog-eat-dog world.
He'll be right out there, Irma. Fred, get a grip. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and we're all just different flavors of Alpo.
The stakes are a hit. Sensing opportunity, Gaston blackmails Fred into a 50-50 partnership, promising to keep the meat supply flowing.
I'm gonna call the cops. And what are you gonna tell them, Fred? That I killed your landlord because you owed him money? Well, there's not a whole lot of motive in that. And besides, you're the one that attacked him with a knife last night. And there were lots of witnesses, all those guys that live on the street. And I wasn't even the one that cooked him. Your wife did that.
Over the next few months, the restaurant rebrands as Gaston, Fred, and Irma's Steakhouse. Customers flood in, including a famous food critic, and Fred reluctantly adjusts to the success.
Guess we are.
Hey, you know, not bad. That is actually damn good.
But paranoia over Chumley's death eats away at him. Irma, still unaware of the source of the stakes, dreams of expanding the business. Meanwhile, Gaston steals the gun from her purse, suspecting Fred might break under the pressure. He later spins a sinister lie, telling Irma that Fred is the one killing people for the stakes. Claiming he's overwhelmed with guilt, Gaston says he plans to kill himself and instructs Irma to meet him and Officer Farley at the restaurant to put an end to Fred's supposed crimes. Gaston arrives at the diner with the gun and tries to kill Fred, but Fred fights back.
as usual, we're gonna do things my way. And I say you're gonna blow your fucking brains out.
Just as Gaston gains the upper hand, Irma walks in. Gaston smugly reveals his plans to murder both of them, only to realize the gun isn't loaded. Fred and Irma reveal they were onto him all along.
They were arguing, officer, when I got here. It was horrible. He picked up a cleaver and he fired!
You said that Fred was going to kill himself using my gun. Fred knows I never put any bullets in my gun.
Nope, never. I won't let her.
As his lies about Fred's suicide tip them off. At that moment, Officer Farley arrives, and Gaston tries to pin everything on Fred and Irma. But to Gaston's shock, Farley reveals that he's developed a taste for the stakes himself.
I've developed this taste. And this would solve my early retirement problem. Something to do with myself. Farley's flame broiled sound okay to you guys?
Fred and Irma agree to a new partnership, and together they kill Gaston, starting by shoving his face onto the hot grill. The episode ends as Gaston's name on the neon sign outside burns out, leaving only Fred and Irma's steakhouse. What's Cookin' is a gruesome, darkly funny tale that shows just how far people will go when the stakes are high. What's Cookin' is adapted from a story featured in Haunt of Fear number 12. In a fun Easter egg, Squid Loaf can be seen advertised in the restaurant in the opening scene, a reference to Meatloaf, who portrays Mr. Chumley in the episode. The episode is packed with a star-studded cast of recognizable actors. Fresh off his Superman fame, Christopher Reeve portrays Fred, the struggling restaurant owner, bringing a mix of earnestness and desperation to the role. Joining him is Bess Armstrong, known for her role in Jaws 3D, who plays Irma, Fred's supportive yet exasperated wife. Meatloaf, the larger-than-life rock star and actor, steals the show as Chumley, the sleazy landlord whose fate becomes the turning point for the new menu items. Joining the cast is Judd Nelson, an icon from the Brat Pack and known for his role in The Breakfast Club, who plays Gaston, the mysterious drifter who introduces the unsettling twist on the restaurant's culinary offerings. Next, we have the gritty and unforgiving episode Carrion Death. This dark tale of crime and karma unfolds in the blistering Arizona desert, where survival comes at a gruesome cost. Earl Raymond Diggs, a cold-blooded mass murderer, manages to escape from prison just before his scheduled execution. Wasting no time, Diggs steals a car, robs a bank, and heads toward the Mexican border, hoping to leave his old life behind. Hot on his trail is a determined motorcycle cop. The chase quickly escalates, and when the cop's bike collides with Diggs' car, both vehicles are destroyed, forcing the two men to continue the pursuit on foot. As they push through the endless wasteland, a lone vulture begins circling overhead, watching with eerie intent. The bird seems to taunt Diggs, occasionally swooping closer, and, oddly enough, it even seems to guide the cop toward him.
Right there. Mexico's right over that hill. Sorry, Birdie. This buffet's been canceled. But there's civil serve at lunch over that hill. Looks like our friend Diggs took off on foot. All right.
just remember. I saw him first.
The Vulture's relentless presence only fuels Diggs' growing frustration. Eventually, Diggs spots a sign advertising a cantina and believes salvation is near. But when he reaches the location, he finds nothing but an abandoned ruin. It isn't long before the cop catches up to him, and the two men clash in a brutal fight.
End of the road, Diggs. You ain't get me! God damn it! You're mine!
The cop manages to handcuff himself to Diggs before the killer gains the upper hand and shoots him with his own gun.
Like I said, Diggs, I'm taking you in.
Fuck you.
But in a grim twist, the cop swallows the key to the handcuffs just before succumbing to his injuries. Now tethered to a dead body and with the gun out of bullets, Diggs is left with no choice but to drag the cop's lifeless form across the unforgiving terrain as the desert heat and exhaustion take their toll. The Vulture, sensing opportunity, stays close, circling above as Diggs grows weaker and more desperate. He finally reaches the border, or so he thinks, as he crests a hill that marks the dividing line. But before he can celebrate, he loses his footing and tumbles down the other side, the cop's body dragging behind him.
Feathered fuck. Okay. Want some lunch? Here. Lighten my load. Hey! I'm talking to you! Huh? Isn't he good enough for you? What do you want, Bird? Huh? You want me? No! No! You ain't getting me, Bird! You ain't getting me! God damn it, you ain't getting me!
Desperation overtakes Diggs as he tries to free himself from the cuffs. Using the cop's badge and a piece of wood, he fashions a crude hatchet. His plan? To sever the cop's hand. But heat stroke and fatigue blur his vision, and in a horrific mistake, now barely conscious, Diggs stumbles backward and finds himself dangling off the edge of a rocky cliff. The weight of the cop's body pulls on the cuffs until, with a sickening snap, Diggs' severed hand gives way, sending him plummeting to the ground below. Broken, paralyzed, and utterly helpless, Diggs can do nothing as the Vulture finally claims its prize. The episode ends with the bird plucking out one of his eyes, feasting on the man who thought he could outrun death itself.
I'm not. Not dead.
Carrion Death is a grim reminder that no matter how far you run, karma will always catch up to you.
Carrion Death is based on a story from Shock Suspense Stories number 9. The Vulture stalking Diggs throughout the episode was a real trained bird, though some shots used a puppet or animatronic for safety or more extreme movements. It made for an episode to keep your eye out for. Pun definitely intended.
In our final segment, we have Television Terror, a twisted tale about the dangers of sensationalist media, where the pursuit of ratings comes with a deadly price. The story centers on Horton Rivers, a tabloid news host, who, along with his camera crew, arrives at a haunted house in Los Angeles. Horton films his intro, recounting the dark history of the house.
Manor right behind me. Ada Ritter, aging matriarch of the Ritter Home boarding house, routinely murdered her elderly guests for their Social Security checks. The bodies were dismembered and buried in the basement. 12 victims in all. Police speculate there may have been more. Only Ada Ritter, who prompted the investigation, knew for sure.
Camera 3.
Now, 5 years later, the horror continues. Rumors of ghosts, voices in the night, weird lights and sound.
Horton announces that he will conduct a live investigation, dramatically cutting through the caution tape he himself set up for effect.
Tonight, we'll find out. Because I'm going inside the Ritter house. But you'll be with me on this special haunting edition of Horton Rivers Live.
During a commercial break, Horton's producer, Sam, talks over his itinerary. She's both fascinated and disgusted by Horton's willingness to manipulate people for the sake of entertainment. Horton, confirming their off-screen relationship, advises Sam to develop a killer instinct if she wants to succeed in the cutthroat world of showbiz.
10 seconds, Horton. Get your earpiece in.
Let me tell you something, pal. You're not tough enough. You're too conscientious. You gotta have that killer instinct, all right? And remember something. Just because you're sleeping with me doesn't give you a free ride in this job.
The show resumes and Horton interviews psychic Roland Wershafter, who describes the house as a pit of seething evil and warns them not to enter. Naturally, Horton dismisses him and leads cameraman Trip Henderson into the house. They explore the first floor, getting only a brief scare from some rats in the kitchen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is amazing. I mean, what you're seeing right now is exactly what homicide detectives saw 5 years ago. It's like stepping into a void. It's like stepping into the past. Here, Ada Ritter prepared home-cooked meals for her boarders. Of course, little did they know that those meals would perhaps be their last meals. But look at the counter. Canned goods, foodstuffs, dishes, plates. Kidney beans. It's as though Ada Ritter never left.
Beautiful.
In the game room, a flashback reveals Ada stuffing one of her victims in a wall. They finally make their way to the cellar, where Ada hid the bodies of her victims. Horton delivers an over-the-top monologue about Ada's motives before cutting to another commercial break.
Down here, the smiling matron of death chopped up the corpses, all right, and then stacked their body parts neatly behind a wall. 12 innocent men. 12 men whose lives just slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. 12 transients whose final resting place was this black pit.
Confident that the show is a hit, Horton is blindsided when Sam tells him it's dragging, and the network wants more excitement. Horton throws a tantrum, but then a moan echoes from the second story.
I'm telling you, this is a great show. The ratings are gonna go through the roof.
The ratings are gonna be out the goddamn window if you don't do something to spice it up.
What am I supposed to spice it up with?
Did you hear that?
As they rush upstairs, Trip's camera feed cuts out momentarily. Horton follows the sound of dripping water to the bathroom, where he's horrified to find an elderly man with his throat slit in the bathtub. He panics and calls Trip, but when Trip looks, the body is gone.
Trip! Come here!
Horton, what's happening?
Come here.
What is it, Horton? What the hell is going on?
Suddenly, the chandelier rattled and doors slammed back and forth. As Trip's camera feed returned, an unseen force moved through the room. The chandelier crashed to the ground, smashing a painting, while blood began spewing from a closet door. When things quieted down, Horton performed for the camera, claiming this was the first ever paranormal activity caught on film.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we've been experiencing and what you've been witnessing is the first case of psychic phenomena ever viewed on live television.
He calls in Wershafter, who confirms they're facing multiple forms of paranormal activity and warns them that they're in grave danger. Another moan is heard from somewhere in the house, prompting Horton to tell Sam to call the police. Before she can act, she's interrupted by a call from the network. They are thrilled with the show's reception. Meanwhile, Horton follows a blood trail to find Tripp's body hanging from a noose.
It's Tripp. Horton? Horton, who's got the camera?
He realizes a ghost is holding the camera and screams in terror. Desperate to escape, Horton is pursued by a horde of angry spirits into a corner room. He pleads for help, but Sam, seeing the ratings soaring, decides not to send any assistance, unaware of the full danger Horton is in. In the end, Horton is attacked by the vengeful ghost of Ada Ritter, who mortally wounds him with a chainsaw. As a curtain rope is wrapped around his neck, she pushes him out the window. His bloody body hangs from the second-story window, the camera capturing it all live on air. Sam, who thought she was finally developing her killer instinct, watches in horror as the reality of her mistake hits her. The ratings might be soaring, but it comes at a far more terrifying cost.
Meet 4 women and 1 man who say they have on the next edition of Horton Rivers Live.
I want to show you guys something. This Halloween decoration. I've had it since I was a kid. I had my mom buy it for me. I take it out every Halloween, and it's from 1996. I was 8. If that shows you anything. But the cool thing, and the reason why I bring this up, is because the little prop that comes with it has an episode, or artwork from an episode that we just featured in this video. I thought that was kind of cool to share. Television Terror is based on a story from Haunt of Fear, number 17. The episode was directed by Charles Picerni, well known for his work as a stunt coordinator and second unit director in Hollywood, and his experience added to the dynamic and suspenseful sequences within the episode. According to an article from Screen Rant, Jeannie Epper, who played the chainsaw-wielding ghost Ada Ritter, accidentally slipped on a rug, bringing her dangerously close to Morton Downey Jr. during filming of the final scene. Reacting instinctively, Downey defended himself with a lamp, adding an unexpected layer of realism to the scene. Information about the chainsaw prop used in the episode, such as if it had an actual working chain or posed any real danger beyond injuries, isn't widely available online. In film and television productions, it's common practice to use modified chainsaws without chains or with other safety modifications to ensure the safety of the cast and crew during filming. Andy and Emma are having dinner, but Emma is too distracted to pay attention to Andy talking about his work. When she finally responds, she drops a bombshell. She's leaving him because she wants a passionate romance.
I said I'm leaving you. I want a divorce.
You what?
All you care about anymore is work. I want passion. I want hot sex on a white sand beach. I want to have a little fun and adventure while I'm still young enough to enjoy it.
All right. What's this really about? What, you want me to increase your allowance? Is that it?
Andy assumes she's angling for a raise in her allowance, but Emma angrily reveals she's in love with someone else and plans to run away with him to Chicago. As she packs her bag, she mocks Andy, calling him a schmuck.
Don't do this to me, Emma. You know what kind of schmuck I'm gonna look like?
That's what really bothers you, isn't it? Well, let me put your mind to rest. You already look like a schmuck, because you are a schmuck.
Enraged, Andy snaps and fatal fight between the two ensues. Officer Smith receives a call regarding a scream from the apartment complex.
Police department. Are you sure it was a scream?
Officer Fine, on the other phone arguing with his wife, eagerly volunteers to take the call, finding the address surprisingly familiar.
What was that call just now?
Some woman. Says she heard a fight next door, and then a scream, and then nothing.
Did I hear the name Conway?
Yeah.
They in Wood Glen, Unit 402?
As a matter of fact, you know?
Meanwhile, Andy attempts to cram Emma's body into the trunk, but struggles to make it fit. There's a knock at the door. Officer Fine arrives on the scene. Andy hurriedly tidies up before letting him in. Fine mentions a report of a scream, but Andy brushes it off, claiming his wife left after an argument and is en route to Chicago. Fine notices the cut on Andy's cheek, which Andy attributes to a clumsy shaving accident. Fine checks the apartment and spots blood on the corner of a trunk in the bedroom. When he opens the trunk, it's filled with towels. He also notices a Marysville High ring on the floor, but doesn't act upon it. In the bathroom, where Emma's body lies hidden in a bubble bath, Officer Fine doesn't notice anything suspicious and leaves. As he exits, Andy begins the grim task of disposing of Emma's body, coldly muttering to himself,
Looks like you'll be making that trip to Chicago after all, honey.
Later that night at the train station, Andy drags a large trunk, intending to ship it to Chicago. Officer Fine reappears and observes Andy as a luggage carrier notes that he forgot to fill out a name and address. Andy, caught off guard, quickly improvises, claiming his wife called from Chicago and that they've reconciled, forcing him to buy a last-minute train ticket he hadn't planned on purchasing. Fine sees him off, only to board the same train moments later, taking a seat directly across from Andy and making him increasingly uncomfortable.
Train gets in Chicago around 6 a.m. We're lucky. Long time no see, huh?
You going to Chicago?
Yep. Case I'm working on. I can't really talk about it.
The two men converse about their wives and relationship troubles. Finally probes Andy about how he would go about killing his wife hypothetically, suggesting strangulation with bare hands. Andy strongly denies being a killer, hastily exiting the conversation. In the dining car, Fines reasserts his presence and shares a meal with Andy. He slyly points out another passenger, claiming with nonchalance that the man is transporting a staggering $5 million worth of drugs. Andy visibly relaxes, assuming that Fine's focus is directed elsewhere.
What's wrong? You look a little pale. How much of this stuff did you eat?
I'm fine.
See that guy back there?
No. Does he seem like the kind of guy who's running $5 million worth of drugs?
Drugs?
You see, the airlines ain't safe anymore. You know, they got the metal detectors and shit. So now these guys, they're running drugs on the rails. That guy, this train, that's the case I'm working on.
Really? That's what you've been working on?
However, Fine's warning about FBI agents boarding the train later to conduct a thorough search raises Andy's anxiety, leading him to become increasingly paranoid. Desperate to avoid discovery, Andy stealthily slips into the luggage car, swaps the name tag on his trunk with another one, and hastily jettisons his original trunk off the moving train. Andy returns to Fine, exuding confidence, and boldly declares that he's ready to unveil the contents of his trunk to the FBI agents. However, his horror reaches new heights as the switched trunk is opened, revealing a gruesome, mutilated corpse, but not Emma's. Desperation in his voice, Andy vehemently denies ownership of the trunk, disclosing that he had cast his own over the train moments earlier. Fine calmly reveals that Andy never left his line of sight, refuting his denial. In a desperate attempt to shift the blame, Andy accuses Fine of having an affair with Emma. However, Fine clarifies that the Marysville High ring he discovered was actually a woman's ring, revealing a scandalous secret.
You gave her. That ring under your bed was a woman's ring. It was my wife's. My wife gave it to your wife when they started seeing each other. That's my wife in your trunk. Like you didn't know. Admit it! When you found out your wife was leaving you for another woman, you went berserk! Decided to get some revenge. That's why you murdered my wife, isn't it?
No, that's not true!
What are you saying, that you didn't kill anybody?
No, I mean, yes, I killed my wife!
Then where's her body?
It's in the trunk I threw off the train!
You saying you killed them both?
No, I
You
didn't.
lying sack of shit!
As Andy is apprehended by law enforcement, Fine really points out that Emma had never left for Chicago at all, instead embarking on a flight to Cancun, having been led to believe that Andy's statement about her disappearance was false. In a shocking twist conclusion, he is seen perusing a newspaper article about the peculiar case. With a sinister smirk, he reaches into a trunk and retrieves Emma's severed arm. In a chilling moment, he mutters a dark joke before proceeding to feed the remains to a disposal unit, signifying the horrifying end to the story.
You know, Emma, you don't look so bad for a woman who's been hacked up and thrown off a train.
Two for the Show is adapted from a story featured in Crime Suspense Stories number 17. Despite overall positive reception, the episode's story and setup is quite convoluted, leading to confusion among viewers. To simplify, the story involves two men's wives who are having an affair with each other. Both husbands end up killing their wives, but at different times. The cop, having more information, sets up the other guy for the murder so he can get away scot-free. This overly convoluted outcome is due to the need for numerous things to fall in place purely by chance to fulfill the cop's plan. This episode can be confusing if you're not paying close attention. A fun piece of trivia is that Vincent Spano, who played Officer Fine, went on to direct the season 6 episode In the Groove. Overall, the attempt to add complexity and a twist backfired, making the episode overly confusing and detracting from its overall quality. The attempt to recreate a comic book story resulted in an overly complicated narrative with poor direction. Next is an episode with two of my favorite actors, people who live in brass hearses. Billy DeLuca and his brother Virgil, played by Bill Paxton and Brad Dourif, are planning a heist at the ice cream factory where Billy currently works. While they review their plan, Virgil watches cartoons, leading to a misunderstanding about the sequence of events. This frustrates Billy, who loses his temper. Virgil berates himself, but Billy brushes it off and tells him to get ready. The next day, an ice cream truck rolls down the street, driven by Earl Bird, a local favorite among children. Earl entertains the kids with a puppet show, earning their applause.
Hey, Mr. Bird, it looks like all our friends want ice cream.
Of course they do, little Willie.
While this is happening, Billy confronts Earl, accusing him of being the reason he went to prison. Earl defends himself, explaining that Billy was stealing and trimming profits, leaving him no choice but to report him. Billy appears to make peace, asking for something buttery from the menu. When Earl says no to butternut, butterbrickle, and buttermilk, Billy settles for 2 butterscotch ice creams. As Billy pays, he notices Earl has a large box of cash in his truck. Back in the car, Billy gives Virgil one of the ice creams and vents about Earl turning him in.
Thanks. You'll get yours tomorrow, Bird. Billy, he's just an old puppet, man. I don't care if he can pull monkeys out of his ass with a hairpin. I want payback! Oh, sure, Billy. Anything you say. You done hard time.
Billy vows to get even for the 2 years he spent in prison because of Earl's betrayal. At the factory the following day, CEO Mrs. Grafungar berates her employees for slacking off and emphasizes Earl's efficiency as an example. When Earl arrives to pick up his order, Grafungar attempts to flirt with him, suggesting a date or dinner featuring her green bean and potato chip casserole. Earl politely declines both offers, which upsets her. After paying for his order, he leaves. Meanwhile, Billy and Virgil spy on Earl, watching him count his money, and review their plan again. Billy insults Virgil, causing him to threaten to back out of the heist. To calm him, Billy manipulates Virgil, claiming everyone is plotting against them.
Virgil, please. We don't have time for this shit right now. I need you on this one.
No, you don't.
Come on, yes, I do.
No, you don't.
We're a team.
You don't even like me. You're
I do
always
like it.
yelling at me and you're hitting me and stuff.
No,
and
you
you're
got
just...
that all wrong, baby brother. Don't you get it? Don't you see? It's not me. It's them.
Who?
Them, everybody. Everybody out there saying the DeLuca brothers are shit. Screw them. They're garbage. They're scum.
Later, Mrs. Grafungar orders Virgil to load Earl's truck, but Virgil snaps and attacks her in a locked room. Though she survives, she crawls out bleeding. As Earl grows impatient, Billy tries to keep Grafungar hidden by using a nearby hook to drag her out of sight.
Come on.
Earl eventually drives off, leaving Billy and Virgil to realize that the factory safe is locked. Frustrated, Virgil suggests going after Earl directly for the money. They break into his house, guns drawn, and demand the cash.
Hands where we can see him, Bird. We want it all. We don't mean 31 flavors.
Yeah!
Show him we got ways of making him talk.
Right, Billy!
Earl tries to escape, but Virgil shoots him in the head.
You f***ing idiot.
Wouldn't tell us where the money was, would he?
Is he gonna tell us now? Huh? Is he?
With Earl seemingly dead, the brothers search the house. Billy discovers a large freezer filled with money disguised as ice cream and calls for Virgil. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out, and Billy's lower leg is blown off.
Original.
Virgil! Get in here!
Hey, Virgil!
You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you?
Earl emerges, alive and armed, revealing that his twin brother, whom Virgil shot earlier, was the one they killed. Earl shows Billy Virgil's lifeless body and taunts him, saying he understands brotherly bonds because he was close to his own brother. Earl turns to reveal his conjoined twin, whose lifeless body is still attached to him. Earl reminisces about his brother, who wasn't sociable, but was the best ice cream salesman when performing as Little Willie during puppet shows. Enraged, Billy curses Earl.
Go to hell, you freak! Look first.
Later, Earl is seen driving his ice cream truck, his twin's corpse still attached to him. A child approaches and comments on the smell, but Earl brushes it off and continues driving, talking to his brother's remains as they disappear down the road. People Who Live in Brass Hearses is based on a story featured in The Vault of Horror number 27. Brad Dourif, who plays Virgil in this episode, is an icon of the horror genre, having appeared in dozens of films, both mainstream and obscure. He is better known as the voice of Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky, in the Child's Play film franchise. Chucky is one of my all-time favorites, and he's the main reason I got into horror in the first place. Child's Play 2 is my favorite and will be featured on the channel soon. This episode also features Bill Paxton, the only actor to be killed by a Terminator, an alien, and a Predator. He also survived the largest tornadoes in history. Sadly, we lost Paxton in February 2017 due to a stroke. He left behind a legacy of memorable childhood moments for fans worldwide and will be missed by the horror community. Top billing. Barry Bly walks into a dimly lit office, clutching a thin rope. He approaches Sheila Winters, who is at her desk and distracted by a phone call, and proceeds to strangle her. However, Sheila responds by thanking him for coming in, revealing the moment to be a casting audition. Sheila, the casting director, insists Barry is wrong for the part, prompting the desperate actor to beg for a chance. Despite his pleas, he leaves frustrated and empty-handed, passing a long line of actors who bear a resemblance to him. On his way out, he bumps into Wynton Robbins, a former roommate and rival actor. Wynton, more talented and handsome than Barry, brags about his recent commercial successes and his strategic branding. Jealous and bitter, Barry mocks Wynton for prioritizing money over artistry. He then shows Wynton a flyer for an upcoming Hamlet audition, only for Wynton to mock the idea of doing free theater in such a run-down area. Barry's life spirals downward. His agent drops him, bluntly stating that he doesn't have the look for Hollywood. He returns to his apartment only to find his girlfriend Lisa moving out. Adding insult to injury, he learns he is being evicted. The landlord locks him out while devouring the last of a chicken dinner Lisa had left behind for Barry. Determined to salvage his dreams, Barry goes to the Hamlet audition the next day. He discovers the theater's entrance hidden in a strange alley. To his annoyance, Wynton is already there, having decided to audition to prove that looks matter more than talent in casting. A peculiar stagehand named Beeks ushers them inside, where they witness the intense and erratic director Nelson Hallowell berating an actor.
Excellent and fancy. He has... Oh, no! 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 It's wrong! It's all wrong!
Hamlet is holding in his hands the skull of Yorick. He sees what 20 years of rotting in the ground have done to his friend. That is why he is so upset.
Halliwell demands raw, visceral performances, insisting the actor kiss a plastic skull. When the actor falters, Halliwell dismisses him in frustration, muttering, "I've lost another one." Barry and Winton meet Halliwell in his office, a cramped closet filled with props. Halliwell rambles about his vision for a groundbreaking, realistic production of Hamlet. Sensing the director's instability, Winton tries to leave, but Halliwell suddenly offers him the lead role, claiming Winton has the look.
I want to bring to the stage a Hamlet that will look and feel and be so real that the people will stumble from their seats, tumble from the theater, their minds reeling, and retch their guts up on the curb.
Yeah. It's all yours, Barry. Break a leg. Break both.
You!
Yes.
High cheekbones, fair skin, slightly frosted hair. You must be Danish.
Actually, I'm Polish.
Perfect, I knew it. The part is yours.
What? What?
Barry seethes as Halliwell introduces a smug Winton to the cast. Later, Barry sneaks into the dressing room while Winton is trying on his costume. Winton smugly reiterates his belief that acting is about marketability and ticket sales, not artistry. As he rambles, Winton notices a strange tag inside his costume marked Yorick, which puzzles him. Barry snaps, strangling Winton with a rope while reciting Hamlet's lines.
Why? Are you out of your mind? Rat! It's dead for a nugget! That's Hamlet! Shithead! That's reaching for! Hamlet! I'm not Hamlet!
Winton gasps, "I'm not Hamlet," before succumbing. Barry hides Winton's body in a laundry room, but is briefly distracted by a phone ringing in a locked room nearby. Returning to the stage, Barry lies to Halliwell, claiming Winton quit due to stage fright. Halliwell seems unfazed and casts Barry in the role of Hamlet. As Barry rehearses in costume, Halliwell and the crew approach him, announcing it's time for the final run-through. Barry, confused since he has barely had time to prepare, notices the tag Winton found earlier. It identifies the costume not as Hamlet's, but as Yorick's. Horrified, Barry realizes they intend for him to play the role of the deceased jester. Halliwell gleefully admits they have struggled to cast the part because someone keeps stealing the skull prop. Panic-stricken, Barry tries to escape but is cornered. He locks himself in the room with the ringing phone, only to discover it is filled with corpses. The phone connects him to a frantic doctor trying to reach the missing staff. Barry's horror deepens as he realizes the theater is actually a mental institution where the patients have murdered the staff and taken over.
Hello? Oh, hello. Thank goodness. We've been trying to call you for hours. Dr. Morrison, are you there? Hello?
I know how you feel.
Hello, Dr. Morrison?
I really wanted someone with high cheekbones.
What are those voices? Dr. Morrison, are you all right?
Your friend looked much more the part. But don't worry.
What is going on over there?
It's showtime!
Halliwell and the others break into the room and kill Barney with an axe. In the final scene, Barry's skull is gruesomely repurposed as a prop for the production of Hamlet, fulfilling Halliwell's twisted vision.
Just the most excellent fancy.
I think I was wrong about the young man. He does have the look, after all.
My imagination it is. My gorge rises at it.
Top Billing is based on a story featured in The Vault of Horror number 39. The episode features John Lovitz, known for his comedic roles on Saturday Night Live and The Critic, delivering a surprisingly dramatic performance as Barry Bly. Veteran actor John Astin, famous for playing Gomez Addams in The Addams Family, brings a unique touch to the character of Nelson Halliwell. The episode explores the harsh realities of the film industry, particularly the focus on physical appearance over talent. This critique resonates with many viewers who are familiar with the industry's superficial standards. Apologies for omitting the ending previously, but I am now using a mixture of uncensored and censored footage. I'll play it in the background now. I have no idea how networks like Fox managed to syndicate episodes with so much gore. Overall, this is a great episode to introduce Tales from the Crypt to someone who's never seen it. It's got all the elements that make the show special. Our final segment of this video is one of my favorite episodes, titled My Brother's Keeper. Eddie and Frank, conjoined twins with starkly different personalities, Eddie being the abrasive, selfish one, and Frank the kind-hearted one, have always struggled with their situation. For years, no doctor could offer them a viable solution to separate. One night after a miserable outing, Eddie convinces Frank to visit a doctor who claims he can perform the operation to separate them. However, both twins must sign a medical release form to proceed. Eager to be free, Eddie signs immediately, but Frank hesitates, unsettled by the 50% risk of death. The doctor clarifies that unless Frank also signs, the operation cannot happen. Back at their home, Eddie tries to sway Frank by emphasizing the benefits of being separated. He points out that Frank could enjoy privacy, attend events of his choice, sleep in his own bed, and even take the cooking class in Paris he's always dreamed about. Though Frank begins to consider it, his doubts persist. Eddie produces the release form, attempting to pressure Frank into signing, but Frank pulls back at the last moment. Their conversation is interrupted by a call from Maria, a woman Frank met earlier at a bar. She asks to see him again, and Frank, elated, agrees. On Friday night, Frank prepares for his date with Maria, while Eddie, disheveled and unkempt, refuses to clean up unless Frank signs the release form. Frank dismisses him and insists they attend the symphony together. At the event, Eddie behaves obnoxiously, drawing unwanted attention and eventually ruining the evening by getting drunk. Since they share a circulatory system, Frank becomes tipsy as well. Despite the chaos, Frank admits he enjoyed Maria's company.
I know you tried to ruin it for me, but you didn't. I'm happy, happy, happy. And you know why? Because I'm in love.
Weeks later, Frank and Maria's relationship has progressed, and they are seen together in bed, fully clothed. Meanwhile, Eddie has invited a prostitute over. When both women go to the bathroom, Maria encounters the prostitute, who cryptically suggests that if Frank signs the release form, he and Eddie can finally be free from one another. When Maria returns, she confronts Frank, saying she cannot continue their relationship while he remains attached to Eddie. Heartbroken, Maria leaves, and Frank tries to chase after her, only to be thwarted by Eddie, who has handcuffed himself to the bed. Eventually, Eddie drunkenly gives Frank the key, but by the time Frank unlocks him, Maria is gone. Furious, Frank blames Eddie for sabotaging his one chance at happiness. After a heated argument, Frank finally decides to sign the release form. Before Frank can act, Maria returns, confessing her love for him. She reveals that Eddie hired her to manipulate Frank into signing the release form, but that she genuinely fell for Frank in the process. Their reconciliation is short-lived, as Eddie, enraged by Maria's betrayal, murders her with a meat cleaver.
Kids. Now, I'll never get rid of them.
Darling? I felt you stiffen. Am I rushing things?
Oh my God! Oh my God! What did you do?
Double-crossing bitch wouldn't keep her mouth shut, Frank!
Eddie calls 911 to report the crime. He taunts Frank, pointing out that they can't give him the capital punishment because Frank, who is innocent, would die too. Overcome with grief and rage, Frank downs Eddie's alcohol, intending to put a permanent end to their living nightmare.
I thought you'd like to live dangerously, Eddie. Ever since we were kids, I've had to put up with you being a bad one, make excuses for you, clean up after you, apologize for you. Well, that's a lot.
Responsibility. Having to be the good one all the time.
Frank, you're gone.
Before passing out, Frank dips a pen into Maria's blood and signs the release form. The next day, the twins awaken in a hospital bed. Eddie is surprised when police officers arrive to arrest him. Smug, Eddie assumes nothing can be done, given their conjoined state. Frank, however, smiles and says,
"We're not freaks, Eddie. We're free. Or at least, I am."
Hey, you're over there!
Oh, did I forget to mention, I signed Dr. Schnellkraut's release form. He did a pretty good job, don't you think?
No! Don't let him take me away from you, Frank! They're gonna put me in the gas!
Oh, what's come over you, big brother?
They're gonna put me in the gas chamber!
As Eddie's bed is wheeled away, it's revealed that the operation was successfully performed while Eddie was unconscious. Both twins are now separated, with Eddie handcuffed to his bed. Frank, relieved to finally be rid of Eddie, rests on his hospital bed. As a nurse fluffs his pillow, he makes a flirtatious remark, hinting that he may have absorbed some of Eddie's brash personality traits.
Uniform, I'm thinking there's a studded leather corset just itching to come out. Am I right?
My Brother's Keeper is based on a story in Shock Suspense Stories number 16. Here are a few fun facts about this episode. First, the twins depicted in the episode are shown as fraternal, but this is actually not a possibility in real life. Identical twins come from the same fertilized egg, therefore conjoined twins are always identical. Timothy Stack and Jonathan Stark, the actors playing the twins, do a great job portraying the twins' contrasting personalities despite being tethered together. And if you thought the actress playing Marie looked familiar, it's because she's none other than Jessica Harper, who starred in the original Suspiria. The episode also explores more profound themes, such as identity and personal freedom, giving it a bit more emotional depth than other Crypt stories. It delves deeper into the twins' personalities and their interpersonal struggles, particularly focusing on Frank's romantic escapades, which were absent in the comic. I just wanted to thank you all so much for watching, leaving comments, and subscribing. Even though I reused footage from previous episodes, the process of adding the extra snippets for this 23-episode series was still quite a task. I am happy I was able to scratch that itch of providing extra information for the first 5 parts of the series. But that's all I have for you in this one. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. This really does make a difference and lets me know people enjoy the content. Anyway, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.